This is the year of wake up and smell the competition. Because Tyson Fury's back, and all you motherfuckers are under attack. Ain't no stopping me now.
I'm gonna make sure he go right out the ring, and I might get on the top of the bucket or the rope and come down with a flying elbow kick.
I'm going to cook him and see how he feels like it. I'm going to see if he's going to get up off the floor. I don't think he's got the bottled minerals, bollocks, whatever you want to call it. He ain't got it. He's an on-top fighter. He's a bully fighter. And when a bully gets bullied, he falls every single time.
What is that song? I believe the Beatles had it. Is all you need is one. Deontay Wilder just needs one shot, and it's game over.
Thank you very much for being a dosser. Thank you.
He's going for it here in the third round. Wilder is down again. And what was he doing with his tongue right there? He said in the lead up, I want to taste blood. I believe that's what he was just doing there at the end of 6, tasting Wilder's blood. That was outrageous.
Second is laughing. He got beat up so bad.
Yes. What is up? MCR family? Another daily edition or semi-daily edition of the show, live on YouTube, obviously podcast from iTunes, Spotify, radio, etc. I'm Matt, the Hipster Hunter. Gonna be talking all things boxing today, plus some MMA in the second half of the show, and also a intense breakdown of the Tiger King documentary, which I gotta say is one of the greatest things that humankind has ever produced as a civilization. And I hope when the aliens find us thousands of years from now, that is the only record of our species, is that documentary. But digressing from that, a lot to get into on today's show. Like I said, I'm Matt the Hipster. And let's get to my co-host on today's show, Mr. Gary in Dallas. Gary, how are you, man?
I'm gonna respectfully I watched the Tiger King. I get why it's entertaining. I had to watch it. I couldn't not watch how it ended. It is not the finest television in America. I
will push, okay, that it is better than the finest works of art that mankind has ever produced.
I feel like I was watching
Apple, like, no, fuck that. Tiger King, Murder, Mayhem, and Destruction, or whatever the title is. That is it. That is the new Sistine Chapel of human civilization. That's the new Great Pyramids of Giza of human civilization, is this documentary. And I will not take any slander of it. But we're going to get into that later, Gary. Okay. All right. I know that's a topic that we wanted to discuss. I don't know if it's a topic that our listeners want us to discuss in depth, but I could talk about that for hours. But we will later. Don't worry, okay? Don't worry, Gary. Let's first get into first off, actually, Gary, how have you been, man? How's the quarantine going for you?
It sucks, man. Like, I don't know any other word to use. It's rough. And rest in peace, Angelo Rotelli.
We're gonna get to that. Yes, I'll bring it up right now. But
not a huge name, but an Italian fighter who I was aware of, who I followed at the very end of his career. Him and Gianfranco Rossi were two fighters that came up in that era who kind of helped legitimize. You know, Italy's not a country with great fighting history like the U.S. or Mexico or UK, and those were two names that were pretty good fighters at that particular time. I mean, again, Rossi won a world title, but Rotelli was a good fighter.
Unfortunately, his mother and his brother had passed away due to coronavirus. So our prayers and thoughts to the rest of the family and friends and loved ones that are dealing with this tragedy over there in Italy. And obviously, I mean, everyone that has been affected by this. This is clearly going to affect not only our community, speaking of boxing, but the greater world more and more as the days roll on, it seems. So obviously, yes, rest in peace to Angelo Rotelli and his family, who also passed away really tragically.
I was going to say, it's going to affect every community, so it was only a matter of time until it affected our community, the boxing community. And it was, especially in Italy, that was, it was coming, you know.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about, obviously, coronavirus and a little bit more later on the show in terms of the Bob Arum and Dana White beef that's going on right now. But I mean, this is an issue that is going to affect our community more. It's obviously going to affect some of the, how should I say this and clarify it or categorize them? The gatekeepers to the sport from a corporate perspective are all pretty much older people. So, I mean, imagine if this virus really starts affecting the promoter class or the TV network class of people. They're going to get hit hard potentially. I mean, there's a reason Bob Arum is holding up in his mansion right now, hiding, because he's smart. He knows that he can't be out there right now. But we're going to get into that later. Let's get into some more positive, or not really positive, but happy discussion here. Let's debate, Gary, who is the best boxer in each weight class. I feel like that's been a question that's been floated out by our listeners a couple times as well. And I think even Santiago brought it up as a possible topic. Santi, by the way, I've been having tons of tech issues. My phone won't even start right now. So if you want to get on the show, Skype, man, because I can't send you a new link right now for some reason. But regardless, as I pull up Skype and remind myself to do that, Skype makes comment ready if you guys want to call in. Let's get into that debate about who is the best boxer in each weight class. And quickly, Gary, let's work actually from the bottom up in terms of size. Okay. Because honestly speaking, when I was coming up with this discussion, how we're going to do it is I'm going to present each division with the discussion of who is the best boxer, present a couple names that are obviously in that in the running for that title, and have us debate it. Minimum weight, light flyweight, flyweight, those three divisions I have as a consensus top king in each division, with Wenhang Menathin at 105, Kenshiro at 108, and obviously Julio Cesar Martinez at 112. I think there really is no debate with that, to be quite honest. And the only debate that could be had was if Tanaka stayed at 112. And then it was a clear Tanaka or Martinez discussion that cannot be had anymore.
Okay, so you want to take Tanaka. I know what Tanaka is going to 115, but he hasn't fought there yet. So you want to take him out at 112? And for the okay, then there's yeah. I mean, it's hard to argue with any.
I mean, what knockout CP Freshmart at 105? Like the dude hasn't done anything remotely close to being relevant in some time for being the younger, prospect in the division. Artem Dalikin at 112. Like, I'm sorry, that's not going to be it right now. And I'm trying to remember who else is like really in the running for Kenshiro's division, but like there isn't. Like those are the clear kings of those respective divisions. And I feel like we kind of sail through those and move on to maybe a different division that has more of a debate about it.
The only other name at 108 is the other Japanese guy, Hiroto Koguchi, and then there's like Elwin Soto, but you wouldn't put any of those guys ahead of Kenshiro. So
Soto's good though. He has a good win in his last. I forget who he fought, but I remember him having a couple good wins. So I mean, there's a guy that could be there soon, but it's still clearly Kenshiro, and by like several leagues as well, I would argue.
No. Soto's last win wasn't good. He beat Angel Acosta, which was a good win. He's had a win since then, which was not good. It's like, how did this guy beat Acosta?
That was the December.
It was either a Golden Boy card or DAZN card or a Matchroom card. It was on DAZN.
Right.
He looked trash in that fight. I was like, this guy beat Acosta?
I would say he looked like trash. It's that it was just a nothing fight. I want to say. I forget who he fought. Who did he fight in his last fight?
It was someone. It was a guy I'd never heard of before. I want to pull it up?
Yeah, pull it up if you can. I'm just curious before we move on. Because we don't need to pull up. It's fine. Kenshiro's the king of flyweight. Like we don't need to have this discussion. Same with Martinez, obviously. Sorry, at light flyweight, at flyweight. The real division that we needed to have a discussion in terms of these lower weight classes is probably Estrada or Ioka, right? At super flyweight. And even then, Estrada is probably the one that maybe wins it, obviously, because he beat Rungvisai, who beat Roman Gonzalez, and you have the clear path of lineage there. Ioka has, I think, made a case for himself to be not only arguably the best guy in this division, but also maybe in a pound-for-pound fighter at some point, especially if he beats Tanaka. So, like, I think super flyweight's the first division we can have a debate about who is actually the best boxer, the king of this division.
Yeah, no, it's because there's two guys who we can have a legitimate debate on, at least, right? I guess Chocolatito still needs to, because I would say like his last performance was really good, and he, but you would say Chocolatito is in third place.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's one of those guys that, let's say, because the Strata fight is happening most likely whenever this pandemic ends. That is one of those fights that can all of a sudden boomerang Gonzalez back to the top. Right? If he beats Estrada in the rematch, and beats him again, so to speak, how do we not say that Roman Gonzalez is back at the top of the division? You can't make that argument.
But he needs to be, because he has a win over Estrada. I know, granted, out of a smaller weight class, but he's got a win over Estrada. The only guy that has his number is Rungvisai. I would say by linear, Ioka is my favorite fighter in the weight class. I think Ioka would win that fight if Ioka fought Estrada. I think Ioka is a sleeper that might run through the division and beat everybody, but he could also lose. That division's really good. But just based on the lineage, based on being the man who beat the man, I would say you got to give the number one spot to Estrada.
Yeah, I probably lean that way as well. Though Ioka, like I said, if he beats Tanaka, even though Tanaka is not a guy that's really in the weight class yet, it would still do a lot to, I think, for that claim. And then plus, I don't know if Estrada beating Gonzalez now is as meaningful as it was a few years ago. It's still meaningful, don't get me wrong, because Gonzalez looked really good against Caliafe, but I still think Estrada is going to kind of blow past Gonzalez, most likely, in a rematch, because it's 8 years of difference now, and one has progressed while one has kind of degressed and had a great old man performance in the last fight, but that was still an old man performance. And I think Estrada's going to hold down to this position for some time, to be honest. I think Estrada would beat Ioka also in a fight, head-on-head. I think Estrada, would get his offensive going probably better than Ioka. I think Estrada has a better jab, better sense of distance and timing than Ioka. Ioka is a little bit unorthodox in his movement, in the way he slips off the center line and the way he creates angles. But I would still pick Estrada because he's the more fundamental boxer. And plus, I see him having enough variance in punch combination or combination sequence, so to speak. Like, the common criticism I have against Mike Garcia, right? Another sort of basic fundamental boxer, that he throws the same 3 punches over and over again.
Yeah.
Estrada mixes it up a little bit more, so to speak. And that's why I would pick Estrada to beat Ioka in that fight, to be honest. But great fight. It's almost a pick 'em, in my opinion.
I really like Ioka because, like you said, he's a little bit unconventional, a little unorthodox, and he just seems to be able to score. Like, he's not unhittable, but especially early in the fight, he's hard to hit, right? And then offensively, he's good. He throws straight punches, but he comes in from an array of angles. Like, he throws really crisp, clean punches from weird angles. I think Ioka is the tough out in that division. Like, could Estrada beat him? Could Chocolatito beat him? Absolutely. Those guys are Hall of Famers. They can absolutely beat him. I just think Ioka is going to be the spoiler in that division. And I'd kind of pick him to beat anyone. But just based off lineage, I got to go. Estrada's got the better win. Estrada beat Rungvisai, who beat Chocolatito twice. So, yeah, I would say Estrada's 1, Ioka is 2. But if they fought, I'd pick Ioka. I don't think he'd stop him, although he stopped Palikte. I would take Ioka by points in that.
How are you comparing Palikte to Estrada?
Well, because you have to get inside on Palikte, right? Because Palikte is so big and long that you have to get inside and fight him on the inside. So, that's the way. I'm not saying Palikte is as good as Estrada, but I'm saying that the blueprint to beat him is not that different. You have to get on the inside.
I think Estrada is a far better inside fighter.
No, absolutely.
And like, Ioka is better at creating opportunities, in my opinion. So, like, he's one of those guys that he's so creative in the ring. He's one of those guys that I think doesn't get his praise in terms of how creative he is in terms of movement and combination setups and feints. But I think Estrada kind of just bulldozes him to a degree. Not that he like dominates him. That's not what I'm speaking. What I'm saying is that he will just push through the creativity of Ioka. Not to the same degree of like Marco Antonio Barrera versus like Prince Nassim, obviously, because Prince Nassim is far more unorthodox than Ioka, but it's a similar concept where I think Estrada's fundamentals are in game through that day, guaranteed. Similar because, again, not one analog, but even like Rungsvijay is a very unorthodox fighter in terms of his setups, in terms of what he wants to throw, in terms of his movement. You have to really find the right sparring partners to imitate Rungsvijay. Estrada kind of just worked through that. He kind of just worked his way through that, through fundamentals, through the jab, through combinations to the body, and he just did the right things over and over again from a textbook perspective. And you can beat unorthodox fighters doing that most of the time, in my opinion.
Look, like I said, Ioka's not unhittable, right? But look, he's not a great defensive fighter, but he's also not unhittable. Rungsvijay, he's an offensive force, right? Like he's a beast of a man for 115 who's freakishly strong and has he throws good punches, but he's so hittable. Like you can hit, he's there to be hit. I don't think Ioka he can wear down and break down Ioka because he's not going to hit him at will like he could Rungsvijay. In the second fight, he hit Rungsvijay. I don't know what his connect percentage was, but it felt like 100%. Like he didn't miss him, especially like in the first 4 or 5 rounds of the fight. Like this is not even competitive. Like there's no defense at all from Rungsvijay. Ioka, again, he's not Floyd Mayweather, but he's not target practice either.
Sure, no, you're right. You're right about that. I didn't say he was hittable. I didn't say that. I'll make that clear. I didn't say that Ioka was hittable. But digressing, I think we're both in agreement that Estrada is still the king of the division per se, but his hold on that crown is perhaps one that will slip sooner than other guys that we're going to talk about later down the road when it comes to these other divisions, because this division is stacked with talent, and that's honestly what it is, more than Estrada being him having flaws in his game. It's more so that everyone else in this division is really fucking good. So you put a tournament together, they're all going to maybe win that tournament. Gonzalez can come back and win it all again. Like that's completely possible and maybe even probable to a degree. So it's hard to predict what this division looks like 12 months from now, if boxing's back up relatively soon. Moving on though, Gary, let's see if you have any thoughts about Estrada versus Ioka.
No, we could go on to 118.
118. Now I know I might get some hate about this, but I put on this list in terms of our discussion, who we should be discussing in terms of this title, Inoue, obviously, but I also put Rigo, Casamore, and Obali. And actually, this is the one division I put the most amount of people on. And I don't know what that says of my subconscious thoughts about this division or Inoue's run through the World Boxing Super Series. But I think that Inoue is clearly the guy that had the most success in this division the last 18 months, let's say, right? Tore through a lot of top 10, top 15 opposition. However, there's still a lot of quality top 10, top 5 opposition still that Inoue hasn't faced yet. And not into a one-to-one analog to his 115 run, but he has yet to fight the guys I want him to fight the most at 118. Donaire was close to that, much better than anybody else he's fought at 115. So that's how it's not a perfect comparison, but there are still names like Rigo, Casamora, who he should be fighting next, and Obali, that he needs to fight to really solidify his status as the king in this division, in my opinion. Am I wrong in that? And that hot take of Inoue not being the king here yet?
Yeah, that's a hot take because he's the king of the division, right? Like there's other guys in the division who's got to beat. There's good fighters in the division, but you said Casamora was on the list of guys.
Yeah,
he lost to Jonas Sultan. Now look, he's got a good win since he beat Tete, destroyed Tete, right? So okay, I mean we can throw that Sultan loss away, but it did happen, right? Like, so what I'm saying is he's beatable, and Rigo is the interesting one, but Rigo just doesn't have the resume at 118 because he fought his whole career at 122. Now he's going down, and he doesn't look drained or anything at 18. So he now is just how much of the old professor is left, right? if Rigo was what Rigo was in 2011, 2000, whatever he started his reign, I would pick him to beat Inoue because he's just too crafty and too good. And he could, Rigo's power was so underrated because he was kind of a boring, typical boxer. Like that left hand is dynamite.
Yeah. Like
today I would pick Inoue to beat him. I think he stops him. But look, there's always one great performance left in these old veterans, right? Could he put it all together and outbox him and outpoint him over 12 rounds? Maybe, right? Like, it's not out of the question, but Rigo doesn't have the resume at 118 to be number one on that list.
He doesn't, but he slips into that almost where you argument of like Ioka.
Yeah.
I could pick Rigo right now to beat Inoue. And I think all of you Inoue fans, who I'm a part of, guys, I'm a part of you, okay, is not a hot take. Because Rigo is still better than anyone Inoue's faced in his career. Without a doubt.
Yeah, Rigo's great. I mean, Rigo's better than, like, Rigo would be the best name on most resumes. Rigo is a great fighter.
And he did look really good at 118 in his last fight.
He did. He looked fantastic.
So obviously Casamora and Obali I put there because they're still champions. You know, same with like there's other people on this list we're going to talk about who maybe they don't belong sort of in this discussion, but they're there because they hold a belt. And that maybe gives them a argument to this case. So Casamora, especially with the Tete win, I thought deserves it. And Obali because he beat Inoue's brother, bro. Come on. What's Inoue going to do? He beat his brother.
You know, Inoue's brother is also named Inoue, right? It's like Cal Ripken's brother.
Well, Inoue is the last name, so it's
yeah, right. It's like Ripken's brother. Well, Ripken's brother's also Ripken.
Name Ripken.
Yeah, but the other one, the lesser one.
The lesser one. Yes, of course.
It's like I don't even know if the listeners are gonna know this, but Dominique Wilkins had a brother that played in the NBA for 10 years, like a decent player, like a guard off the bench, like a defensive specialist. Gerald Wilkins. No one knows who he is.
No one.
Antetokounmpo had a brother that played briefly for the Knicks. Actually, an older brother, which sucks even more because it's big brother. I don't even remember his first name. And then, like, the Greek Freak came to the league. He's like, wait a second, I know that name. His brother played for like 10 games with the Knicks and got cut. But he was the same kind of athletic freak. He just didn't have any of the skills his brother had.
Shout out to Seth Curry, man. Shout out to Seth Curry.
Seth Curry's he's carved out a niche, but the same thing. Like,
because he was a really good college player, actually.
He was.
That's the difference with a lot of the other brothers that we're going to talk about. But digressing, shout out to everyone in the chat as well. JC from Ringside Reporter looks like is there. Scott Brown, Mr. DAZN, who I remember I scared off in a phone call that one time. Dwayne, what up, Dwayne? Who else is there? Scott Brown. I never said him. You guys just arguing about a bunch of shit. Go on, argue. I love boxing arguments there. I'm just reading them. Somebody who did. JC said, but Rigo's resume is weak. Yeah, it is, but his talent level is so high. So, I mean, you can't really knock him for that. And he does have, I think, a lot of good B-level wins. And that doesn't mean that you have A-level wins, but a lot of B-level wins is impressive, too, to a degree. Especially if you just win them time after time and dominate them. But digressing, let's move on. Super bantamweight. Akhmadiliev or Ray Vargas is what I put on this list. You could have easily put Emmanuel Navarrete as well, though I do not. I wouldn't say that Isaac Dogbe's those wins over Isaac Dogbe has really turned out to be the greatest wins in the division. And plus, Emmanuel Navarrete's run since then has been completely lackluster. But he could be on this list as well. So I'm going to add him as well for the sake of the argument. Akhmadiliev, Vargas, or Navarrete. Gary, who would you put as the king of the division right now? I would put Akhmadiliev.
I'm going to go with the hot take. Navarrete. The guy, look, we can say that the wins over the Dogbe aren't impressive, but we all picked Dogbe. I picked Dogbe in the second fight. I said Dogbe, I'll get this right. He'll be, and they got blown out even worse. And I get that his last couple. I
didn't say those wins weren't impressive. I want to rephrase what I'm saying. Dogbe has really continued to falter since those wins.
Yeah.
And it has definitely put a little bit of an asterisk over those wins, similar to a degree of like Lomachenko over Nicholas Walters. Nicholas Walters is still probably Loma's best win, and it should be talked about more, but it's not because Nicholas Walters did nothing after that.
Yeah.
And that kind of ruined the win to a degree.
If you would have said to me after that fight, does Walters ever win a belt again? I would have said, yeah, he goes back down to 126 and gets a belt. Sure. Yeah. He hasn't fought again. Like Loma seriously beat a guy in his prime into retirement. Like that needs to be given credit. That was I didn't think Walters was going to beat Lomachenko, but I said, okay, should be a good challenge. This should be a good fight.
Walters has 2 Hall of Famers on his resume.
Yeah.
Donaire and Darchinyan, I think, are going to get in the Hall of Fame.
For sure. Both of them. Absolutely both of them.
Like, it's not even discussion. So the fact that you have 2 Hall of Famers on your resume, your biggest fight after that, you lose it and you never fight again. I don't think we talk about Nicholas Walters enough as a boxing community. Somebody needs to find him. Where is he at? That guy could easily go back to 126 right now and maybe collect a belt. He could be.
He's from Jamaica, right?
Yes.
Chilling on the beach, man. He took that Loma money and chilling.
He probably collected what, 7 figures for that at least.
Probably, yeah.
Even in that era, yeah, he could be making that last to a degree. Like, look at Felix Diaz. He's made that Crawford money last forever, man. He got heavy, bro, in DR and just has never returned. Let that unibrow grow out, and he was just good to go, man. By the way, you picking Navarrete. Why are you picking Navarrete over Akhmadiliev? Because the wins over Dogbe is better than the win over Daniel Roman?
Roman's the better name. Yeah, I'm taking Navarrete because of the fashion in which he blew Dogbe out twice and has blown.
Quick question, just so I also know this. Do you also pick Navarrete in a head-to-head matchup against Akhmadiliev?
Boy, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fine. Because if you rate the Dogbe wins at least equal to or close enough to the Roman win, and then you think he beats him in head-to-head, of course you think Navarrete's the king of the division. That's totally fine.
And then what was the other name?
Ray Vargas. I think Ray Vargas has been around forever. Guy's like 30-0.
Yeah, I just don't think he's good. Like, I think he's always been the weak link. Like, I think Figueroa beats him.
I don't know about that.
I think Figueroa does everything better. Like, they're the same size, and I think Figueroa does everything better than Ray Vargas does.
Maybe.
But I get Ray Vargas has to be in the discussion because, like, he's run the division. He's been a champ for how long now? I mean, it's been like...
He's the longest
champion
out of the group, I would say, right? He has to be over Navarrete because he was a champion before Navarrete, I want to say, and he's still champion now. I do think, though, there's arguments for super bantamweight because Akhmadiliev is this new upstart guy, has a good win against Daniel Roman, but he's, 7-0, 8-0, right? Ray Vargas is 30-0, but doesn't have the names. Navarrete has a great back-to-back wins over Isaac Dogbe, but then has fought no names since then. Honestly speaking, it's a weird division to gauge right now, to be quite honest.
And Vargas is with PBC now, right? He's officially signed with them?
Yes. Yeah.
Can they make a Vargas versus Figueroa fight? Just whenever boxing comes back, just make that fight.
Absolutely. Then that will happen. That's the reason why they got him for Figueroa.
I hope so.
Well, because you have a great prospect, right, or contender, that's why I'm as at super bantamweight, and you have no champions. Go get a champion. They got one. I think clearly that we're gonna get a Figueroa Ray Vargas fight in the next 12 months. I think there was even an article, maybe we even talked about it on a show as well, where they talked about that fight later down the line with Vargas getting like a debut PBC fight and then fighting Figueroa.
And they want him for Figueroa. They don't want him for Fulton, right? They want him for Figueroa.
No, I think there was talks about, I could be wrong about this, so don't quote me on this, anyone. I could be just imagining this. It could be the quarantine getting to me. I want to say there's talks about Figueroa versus Fulton.
There has been.
And it was Ray Vargas versus some guy as his debut in PBC. And then they would put the winner of Figueroa versus Fulton versus Ray Vargas. I don't know if that's official, or that's anyone or any true PBC official on the record talking about that, but I do remember hearing that from somewhere a while ago, maybe like a month or two ago, 3 months ago. So whatever they do, they have options now at 122. And plus a lot of these conglomerates and pseudo leagues, right? They all have options at 122. They have pretty good holdings. DAZN has plenty of 122 fighters. ESPN does to a degree as well, or at least they have a great name in Emmanuel Navarrete. And PBC has enough prospects and a champion now. So the division is good enough. I mean, the division is definitely heating up as well. Moving on, featherweight. Gary Russell versus Josh Warrington, or Josh Warrington. I think it's clearly a two-horse race in this division. Sorry, Shakur Stevenson. Sorry, Shu Shan. You guys aren't in the running here. You guys haven't beat anyone of note, let's be quite honest. I mean, Shu Shan has a good like C or B level win, but Shakur Stevenson has fought Joet Gonzalez for the title. That means nothing to me. So Russell or Warrington. Gary, who is the king of the division?
Mick Conlon. This is a tough one. This was what I was going back and forth on. Warrington's got a better resume. Okay, but I'm going to say Russell because Russell's been like he doesn't fight. It's like Jack Dempsey's era. He just doesn't fight, right? Like, but he's been the king of the division for a while. He's got a good win now. He's got a bunch of good wins. And Russell beats Warrington. Like, that's one of the fights I want to see made, Warrington versus Russell. But Russell is so good. Like, just skill-wise, Russell's one of the best fighters in the world. Like, Russell's better than Warrington, and he's been a champ longer. So I still say it's Russell, even though all things considered, Warrington's resume is better.
Warrington's resume is significantly better than Russell's at this point in time, in my opinion. Though I will say the Joseph Diaz fight is looking a lot better as time is rolling on for Gary Russell. But digressing from that, I think Warrington has had a better last 18 to 24 months in the division. I mean, he was honestly almost fighter of the year. Was it last year or the year before when he beat Lee Selby and Carl Frampton in the same year? I mean, that alone is a great run. But Russell is where I pick in the head-to-head, right? I would pick Russell to fight, or to beat, I should say, Josh Warrington. So it's a tough one for me. I would probably lean toward Russell for the longevity in the division at the top because he's been around for a while, though he doesn't fight as much as we want. He has enough quality wins, and plus his skill level is better than Josh Warrington. But I have no real argument with anyone that is picking Josh Warrington as the king of 126. No,
Warrington pick is perfectly fine. I mean,
this is one of the hardest divisions to pick, in my opinion. You know,
if you're going off resume, it's Warrington, right? Like, you could probably make a better argument for Warrington than you could Russell, but I'm going to make the argument for Russell.
Yeah, agreed. Let's get to super featherweight. This one, I feel like there isn't as much of a debate as I would like. I feel like Miguel Berchelt is the easy pick here for obvious reasons: longevity, resume, skill level, violence level. But I also put Joseph Diaz in this discussion as well, and thought to bring it up to you, Gary. Can we bring Joseph Diaz in this discussion off of a Tevin Farmer win with Miguel Berchelt when Berchelt's been around forever? Has the Francisco Vargas wins, the two of them? I mean,
absolutely, he's got to win over Tevin Farmer, who was I know he only held the belt for a little over a year, but he made like 5 defenses in that time. So yeah, no, it's Jojo Diaz's win puts him in the conversation. Also, like you put Rigo in the conversation at 118. So why don't you put Santa Cruz in the conversation at 130?
I'll be honest, because I don't know where to put Santa Cruz right now, because he's fighting Gervonta Davis next at God knows what weight class. You know, like that's why I did not put him. But if you're thinking pure just guys in the division that are ranked right now, you can put him there. Absolutely. You can maybe even put him above Berchelt, honestly speaking. You could make that argument. I wouldn't, but you can make that argument. I just didn't put him there because I don't know if he's fighting at 130 again. I don't know where he's fighting again. I don't know who he's fighting again. And
I would pick Berchelt too. Like, I'm a huge Berchelt fan, right? Like I rate Berchelt higher than most people do.
Are all the people in the chat saying that Oscar Valdez should be the king? Are they trying to troll me right now?
They're trolling you. They're baiting. Don't take that's bait, Matt. Don't take it.
getting blood pressure right now, aneurysm forming in my brain. Digressing though. So who do you pick then?
Burchell. The only thing though, okay, Jamel Herring has looked really good at 130. Do you think he can keep Burchell off of him for 12 rounds and outpoint him?
I think if Jamel Herring beats Carl Frampton, then he's probably in this discussion.
He needs to beat Frampton though.
Yeah, I would say so. Was it Ito, right? That's who he took the title off of.
Mm-hmm. And then he beat Lamont Roach.
You know me, I wasn't high on Lamont Roach ever.
I picked Roach to win that fight. I
think you were high on whatever Tiger King dudes are smoking. I think he needs that Frampton win. He needs a more signature A-level win, in my opinion. And even though Frampton's obviously towards the end of his career in a weight class he doesn't belong in, he is still an A-level name at least. So that helps.
And what about Herring versus Burchell? Do you think Herring could outbox him and keep him off of him for 12 rounds? Because Herring is a big guy. He comes down from 140, right? Like he's
in a head-to-head. I might pick Jamel Herring, and that might be a hot take. But he doesn't have the resume at 130 right now. That's where I come down to it.
Because Burchell, I think it's kind of like Carl Frost in the sense that he's an underrated boxer. Look, I'm not saying he's Arislandi Lara out there, but he's got his skills are getting better. He can jab a little bit. He does things. He's just not a pressure forward guy who can crack. There's subtle skills to him, but he certainly can't outbox Herring, right?
The chat's good today, guys. I just want to say that everyone in the chat right now, you guys are on point. Just gotta say that. Dwayne, Santa Cruz, Tank Davis at a catch rate of 142. After this quarantine, that might be happening, guys. Let's be honest. Mr. DAZN on something saying Valdez is undefeated champion. What the fuck? Dude, who does he beat? Scott Quigg?
Scott Quigg.
Ooh. Yay. Scott Quigg, who's coming off, 2 fights after his loss to Carl Frampton and looked bad in all of them, I want to say, as well. And then he lit the fuck up of Oscar Valdez, broke his jaw. Honestly, almost won that fight, but obviously came in grossly overweight. Yeah, no. Valdez is not that guy. Plus, he has no wins of note at 130. None. Liam Roscoe, our good listener from Australia, I want to say. Correct me if I'm wrong, Liam. Saying Rakhimov will light up 130. Yeah, but he's a prospect. Can't be in this discussion yet. Moving on to a division where there should not be any debate here. Lightweight. Clearly a Lomachenko division.
For now. I'm picking Loma to beat Teofimo, but you're not. So that this can change whenever boxing resumes. But right now, there's no conversation.
It has to be Loma. Devin Haney. Come on, guys. Well, no. Now I know that Mr. DAZN is trolling me because he said Oscar Valdez beat Genesis Cervania. Yo, what the fuck? Get out of
here. But it shows you the level of competition, right? It shows you where he is levels.
Yeah.
All right, it's like Gaddy Ward was a great fight, and Ward beat Gaddy in the first one. Okay, it just shows you more about what level there, and that those two guys would have a life and death fight like that. That speaks.
I want all the people that rightfully discredit Adrian Broner's title reigns because he fought nobodies for those titles equally shit on Oscar Valdez's entire fucking resume because it's garbage. It is the stereotypical top-ranked bullshit champion run. Gilberto Ramirez is close to that, but at least he has fucking Jesse Hart. I'll give him that at least. That might be a little bit too nice of me. But digressing. Junior welterweight, though. That's where we can honestly have another great discussion, debate like featherweight, Josh Taylor or Jose Ramirez. Both unified champions. Both have good resumes. Both have one has been around for a long time. One has had a meteoric rise. And I think each has really, in their own ways, showed evolutions in their games in the last 12 months that have made us all impressed by them. So this is a hard division for me. I think Taylor's the easy pick. He's the safe pick because Regis Prograis is the better win than Hooker. But Ramirez, I think, again, showed so many new wrinkles to his game in that fight, while Taylor just had to outperform Prograis. And Ramirez has been around for a long time and has, I think, a lot of quality B-level names that we don't talk about. Who's the guy that got knocked out by Virgil Ortiz at 147?
Let's go.
Roscoe, right? Yes, thank you. I think that's a perfect B-level name to beat. And then he beat an honestly A-level name in Maurice Hooker and showed new levels to his game. So, Gary, is it just the safe pick in Josh Taylor because of his meteoric rise, his win against Regis Prograis, which is just a better name, so to speak, than anyone on Jose Ramirez's resume? Or does Jose Ramirez get it for his longevity and his evolutions in his game?
It's a two-man race. I'm trying to make an argument for Ramirez, but it keeps falling short. Like, Ramirez has a great win over Hooker. He's got wins over Zepeda, which looks better now. It looks good in retrospect. He's got wins over Orozco, but Taylor's got the win over the guy we all want to win the tournament. It's Taylor. Taylor's the best fighter in the division, and that's a division that has Mario Barrios in it too.
What if Ramirez comes in and blows out Victor Postal? Does that change anything? Because Postal is the other great win on Taylor.
Yeah,
right?
If he comes in and blows him out in a couple of rounds. See, the problem is that Mikey Garcia should be number one, but he keeps convincing himself he's a 147 pounder.
Bringing into Mikey Garcia, I think they can't fight at 140 later on the show, by the way, which is fucking ridiculous.
So it's between these two guys. And I know Mikey wouldn't fight Ramirez because they're best friends in the same camp and stuff. But Mikey versus Josh Taylor would be a great fight. And we're not going to get it because Mikey thinks he's a 147 pounder. Okay. Taylor's got the wins over Postal. It's close, but I can't make an argument that puts Ramirez. If Ramirez blows Postal out, then maybe. If he stops him, because Postal Taylor was a really good fight.
Really underrated fight, by the way. If you guys haven't seen it, go check it out.
And I wanted to give my hot take. I wanted to pick Postal in that fight, but then it kept getting canceled.
You're going to pick Postal against Ramirez?
I don't know. Now they're talking about doing it in Fresno. That's another. Originally, it was supposed to be set in China, remember?
Yeah.
And I was going to go out on a limb and take Postal in that fight. Now if they do it in Ramirez's hometown, that's another hurdle to overcome. I don't think I could pick him at that point. So I would pick, but I think Postal is good. Like, I was impressed when Taylor beat him. I know people said that fight was really close. Yeah, because Postal's really good. That's why it was competitive. I got right now. I got to give it to Taylor.
Postal still, honestly, maybe Crawford's best win as well. Just want to point that out. Moving on, welterweight, another division where we can have a discussion, and this is maybe one that is similar to like a Russell versus Warrington discussion. Or even like a Strada versus Ioka to a degree. Clearly, Spence has the better resume by far at welterweight than Crawford. It's not even a discussion, guys. Not a debate. We don't need to have that. You have Kell Brook and Sean Porter on your ledger, while the other guy has Jose Benavidez and Jeff Horn. Sorry. It's not a debate. It just isn't. However, obviously, Terrence Crawford is higher ranked in pound for pound list by most people. I think consensus pound for pound list as well. Crawford is a guy that most people think is a more varied boxer with a bigger toolbox to sort of go into in a fight against Spence. But again, Spence is a guy that has a better resume and has been demolishing guys, so to speak, at welterweight, except for the top guys who are, Kell Brook or Sean Porter, who he has great fights with.
And just to add to that, Pacquiao's recent resume, meaning Matisse, Broner, and Keith Thurman, is better than Bud's.
It is. It's not even close to being like, it's not a debate. Like, you're right. Manny Pacquiao should be more in this discussion than Terrence Crawford, honestly speaking, just from a pure resume perspective. Crawford is holding on to a win against Jeff Horn, Victor Postal, and Yuriorkis Gamboa, spanning 5-6 years. That's it. Add a Ricky Burns, maybe. Crawford needs to fight another top 5 guy to really make a case to being the king. I think we can't put Crawford as a king. I would still put Spence as the king of the division right now. I think he's the safe pick, but the right pick as well.
Yeah, and I picked Bud to beat everyone in the division, but based on their resume, I gotta put
You still pick Bud to beat Spence after that Kavaliauskas knockdown?
Yeah,
I'm
still think Bud. Again, it's not crazy to pick. I would root for Spence. I hope Spence wins, but Crawford is too multi-dimensional.
You going against your Texas and Dallas line? How dare you?
I picked Cal Brook to beat him too. That was when I first started listening to Name Redacted.
You hate Spence?
No, I love Spence. Spence is on the wall. I love Spence. I just thought Cal Brook was the best welterweight in the world then. I think Terrence Crawford is the best welterweight in the world now. Like,
I want to keep reminding all of our listeners and ourselves that us, meaning the boxing community, circa 2014, right? When Cobrook beat Sean Porter, and we then had the Cobrook versus Keith Thurman debates all the time. That was a stupid debate, guys. It was. Carson Jones was his next best win. Let's be honest here. And he had to fight him, what, 3 times, 4 times? You muted, Gary. You muted.
I know he fought him at least twice. I don't know if he fought him 3 or 4 times. If he did, it was real early in their career when I didn't. No one in America knew who he was.
I'm joking. They didn't fight 4 times.
I don't think it was 4. I know it was twice. It was at least twice. Maybe it was 3. I don't know. It's like
I hope it's 3.
Yeah, people don't remember. Margarito beat Sergio Martinez. No one knew who Sergio Martinez was yet, but he's got a win over Sergio Martinez, and that was Martinez's last loss until the Cotto fight. Well, he lost to Paul Williams too, but that was like a fight of the year, which was a fight that shot him up. Yeah.
Moving on, junior middleweight. This one was hard to sort of gauge who could be in this discussion, who couldn't be, because I put Charlo and Rosario in this discussion for us to have. But I mean, you could easily put like maybe Castano on this list as well, maybe a Laura. I mean, is there really an argument for them not to be in this discussion? Could they not beat Charlo or Rosario? I don't think that's really a thing, right? I think these top 5 guys, if they had a round robin tournament, they would all collect wins against each other at some point. So Gary, your thoughts on 154? This one was hard to gauge for me. I have a pick as to who I think is the best guy in the division right now, but it's tough.
I have a pick too. And again, you're right. If they all fought each other, they'd all beat each other, right? So I don't think there's a right or a wrong answer here. I mean, there's a series of right answers, right? Like, I'm going to pick one that's probably going to be surprising to people, but I thought he won both fights. One was a draw, one was a loss. I'm going to pick Lara. Because I had him beating Castano by 1 point, and I had him beating Hurd by 1 point. So he's got both those wins, in my book at least. And then he's got a history of 154. I know he's lost the decision and he got a draw, and neither of those decisions were wrong. I think Matt, you scored the fight for Castano, right?
Yeah, I did.
I had it 1 point for Lara. I can see you scoring it for Castano, right? So if you put Lara way down on your list behind Castano, that's fine because you had Castano beating him. But right now, I'm gonna stick with Lara because look, I think Lara and Charlo are gonna fight each other. That's the talk. I think Lara wins. And I still don't think Laura's been soundly beaten at 154. He's lost one and got a draw in 2 very, very close, highly contested fights against top guys at 154. So I'm going to stick with Lara. Now, Jason Rosario has the lineage, but come on. Jason Rosario, he's going to lose his next fight. He's so Buster Douglas. He's going to get knocked out the next time he fights.
I don't know. It's so hard to tell with a guy like Rosario because he has such a dominant win against J-Rock. Right? Like it was not competitive.
No, it wasn't. It was shocking.
It was not like the same way, but it was like Fury Wilder too, man. Like it was one-way traffic where a guy was just walking somebody down and beating him up for 5-6 rounds till it was over, right? Like it was not competitive at all. Let's be quite honest. And I think an element to that is obviously the fact that Rosario has never been in a full camp, never been with a full trainer. He did that for that camp, and you see the improvement. You have a 24-year-old guy, right? He's in his early 20s, I want to say. He could be a guy that holds down the division for a while. Plus, he has the win against the guy that I think most of us thought was the guy at the division when he lost. But Charlo has that great win against Tony Harrison in the rematch as well. Thought he looked fantastic. I don't know. This is a tough one for me. And plus, like you said, like Laura, look, I don't think Laura should be included here, but I'm okay with it because Laura's skill level, Laura's longevity in the division, amount of wins he has in the division as well. Even, wins are now a long time ago. They still, I think, are somewhat relevant to talking about him in this discussion. I can't rank him above that top hump right now. I think he has clearly slipped to a top 6, 7, 8 guy in the division, but a gatekeeper to the top 6 of the division. And that's a fine. I use the term gatekeeper as a very positive, respectful term here, guys, because that's what he is now. You beat him, you now sort of get that next shot. Castano didn't beat him. So he had to go collect a couple wins. Now he's fighting Teixeira for a title. I think Laura's in that stage where he's that barometer test for everyone. And there are guys that beat him and guys that lose to him. And he is the what's the panhandle, for gold. And he's trying to find the gold in the division. That's Laura. Laura's the fucking pan. Okay. And guys like Castano might end up being a gold nugget, but he's not there yet. And other guys have proven to be gold nuggets and Jarrett Hurd. Now, obviously, he's slipping to a degree in the last year or so, but that's beside the point. That doesn't make Laura all of a sudden better. But again, this division is one of those I think there's not a wrong answer, except for everyone in the chat saying Madrimov. Stop. People.
Yeah, I mean,
he hasn't
gotta
fought
beat. Yeah,
a top 50 guy. I could be wrong about that, but I mean, honestly, like, who has he fought? No one. Liam Roskell, waving the flag there, bring up Tim Zhu. There yet at all. I mean, these are guys that maybe they're there in a few years, but they're not there now at all. It's a Rosario Charlo discussion, and if you want to be sentimental, you maybe throw a nod to Aslan Laura.
Like, if you're saying Madrimov, you might as well say Charles Conwell. He's got a better win. He's got a win over Patrick Day, right? Like, Conwell's got a better win than Madrimov. And I like Madrimov. I think Madrimov can be a world title at some point, right? But you have to prove that. You can't just say, because he knocked out a bunch of guys you never heard of, that he's the best guy in the weight class. Now, maybe one day he will be, but you have to prove that.
Some stupid statements being said in the chat about Hurd being a hype job. Ugh.
Come on, guys. Hurd beat he beat stopped Harrison.
We're not having that discussion.
Stopped Trout and then beat Laura. Come on, guys.
Again, people have a very recent memory when it comes short-term memory when it comes to boxing. Let's be honest.
I get why if you just have a real strong memory, because he looked awful against J-Rock. And then this last thing he just did was ridiculous.
Against Francisco Santana, right?
Yeah. I mean, against the welterweight.
God, that was such a bad performance.
He looked terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And then the J-Rock fight, he looked terrible. I think that J-Rock fight did something to him psychologically, right? Because J-Rock didn't outpoint him, right? Just kind of outbox him a little bit and just take a tight decision. He didn't catch lightning in a bottle and just land a miracle grand slam in the 9th inning. He beat him up. He beat him up inside. He beat him up all over. Hurd maybe won 2 or 3 rounds in that fight. And I think that seriously is this guy he came into my hometown. That fight was in the DC area and beat him up. I think that's a Steve Collins, Chris Eubank Sr. thing. It's that's in his head. And that's going to a sports psychologist, a trainer. He's really going to have to do something to. But he's got a new camp now. That's not working. We may have seen the best of Hurd. That's all I'm saying.
But the best of Hurd was not a hype job.
Oh, the best of Hurd was really good.
really fucking good. Those 3 wins alone made him legitimate. You can isolate one bad performance, or let's say the drop off of a fighter, and then say they're bad. I can go look at Roy Jones' career of the last 4 years that he was fighting and say he was a bad fighter. I can do that, right? I can look at all of his fights.
You can do it to Ali too. Oh, he lost to Spinks and then beat Spinks and lost to Holmes and Burback. It's like he did some good things before.
Or he looked trash against Chuck Webner. Who the fuck was Chuck? Drunk bartender. Come on, man. Like, you can isolate a bad fight in almost everyone's career, if not everyone's career. Everyone has off nights. But Hurd had a run in the division. He was the guy in the division for a period of time. It was indistinguishable, or inarguable, I should say, after those 3 wins that he was the guy. And then he got beat. And that happens. Moving on. Where are we going to? Oh, the middleweight. This is one where I want to bring up the discussion, though I think it's an easy one to have and swat away, but I know it's there. Obviously, Canelo is the safe pick. But does Triple G still belong in this discussion? Has a belt, has a win against Derevchenko. A lot of people think he beat Canelo twice. I'm not one of them, but a lot of people do. So I have to give those people somewhat of respect, I guess, even though they're wrong. Gary, or is Triple G, does Triple G have a claim to this title still, or the throne still, or is it Canelo and it's not even a discussion at this point?
If you're still counting Canelo as a middleweight, now he fought at 175 and he's most likely fighting at 60. So he's going to be a year plus removed out of fighting at 160. So if you don't want to count him at 160 anymore until he goes back to 160, that's fair. And then Triple G is in the discussion. But if you're going to put Triple G in the discussion at middleweight, it's Triple G. Jacobs beat, and I think we disagree with that. Jacobs beat Triple G.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, Canelo beat Jacobs, no problem.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, Canelo beat the guy that beat Triple G and beat Triple G. So it's Canelo. But unless you want to say Canelo is now a middleweight or light heavyweight or whatever. But if you want to keep Canelo in the middleweight discussion, then it's Canelo. And I don't see a discussion for anyone else.
Now, let's say for a hypothetical argument here, because I think we're both in agreement here that it's Canelo, and it's really not an argument. Even with the controversial nature of his fight with Triple G. But let's say Canelo's out of the division. He's not included in this list. Then what about guys like a Jamal Charlo or Andrade, who they don't have the resumes of Triple G, obviously, but they could potentially beat a Triple G in a head-to-head matchup?
Yeah. If you take Canelo out, it gets real interesting, right? Because there's 3 guys who have a real good claim. Of those 3, Charlo doesn't really have a good win. Like, I want to put Charlo in because that's my guy. And I think he would beat Triple G at this point. I'm pretty confident he'd beat Triple G at this point. But it's like, because you beat who? Because you beat Dennis Hogan, who's a 154-pounder? Because you beat Korobov, controversially, in a tight... I thought he won, but it was close.
Hugo Centeno Jr.
Ooh. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you take Triple G out, there's 3 guys who you could make a really good case for, but they're all flawed. If you want to say Triple G, he just lost to Derevchenko. We all know what happened in that fight, right? So he really hasn't won a fight besides Steve Rolls at middleweight since...
What was the last fight before Canelo?
Jacobs, but he lost that fight. So
that was the fight before Canelo?
He fought Lemieux, then he fought Jacobs, and then he fought Canelo.
You have any in between? Damn. I would probably, if we take Canelo out of the discussion, I'd probably give it to Triple G due to the longevity. But like head-to-head matchups, I would pick Charlo and Andrade to beat Triple G at this point. Right? Like, the discussion for me at middleweight has always been Andrade, Charlo, because they're the successors of 160, it seems, if Canelo's not going to that division, which is a possibility. So 160 is interesting, again, if you take Canelo out. If it's Canelo's in there, it's a pure Canelo one-man race.
But, like, you could make the same argument for Triple G that I made for Laura at 154. Like,
Absolutely.
long reigning champion who hasn't been soundly beaten yet. Now, I thought in the second fight he was soundly beaten. Like I thought Canelo won, but a lot of people don't feel that way. So you could make the same argument until he gets soundly beaten. And I thought he was soundly beaten again by Derevyanchenko. So I think he's been soundly beaten twice. But you could argue that he hasn't been, right? He's got one decision, and people feel that some people think that he beat Canelo in the second fight. So you could make an argument for him because you could say he hasn't been soundly beaten yet. He's lost a controversial fight, and then he beat Derevyanchenko. So you can make an argument. If we take Triple G out of it, I want to argue for Charlo, but any one of those three guys.
It's not right. You know it. It just doesn't feel right. And then you want to argue for Andrade because I think like he's maybe the best boxer, pure boxer of the group. But it's like, dude, Andrade has fought no one at 160 as well, man. He beat Walter White from Breaking Bad for the title. Like, come on, man. It's not legitimate. Let's get to 168. Obviously, without Canelo, this is open sort of discussion onto who could be on this list because I put Smith and Benavidez, but obviously Billy Joe and Caleb Plant from pure technical perspective could be included here. But I feel like Smith and Benavidez have the better resumes out of that four, person group. So they are the front runners, so to speak, in the discussion. Who is your king at 168?
I'm going to go with Smith. He's got the best resume. I would pick Plant to beat him. Smith didn't look good against Ryder, but he won, so he holds on to his reign as king of the division. Mm-hmm. I don't know who would win between Smith and Benavidez. That'd be a great fight. But I'd pick Plant to beat everyone in the division. So, but he doesn't have the resume yet. Smith's resume is much better. So I'm going to stick with Smith as the king of the division. But I would pick Plant to beat Smith in a head-to-head matchup.
I probably agree. I would also pick Benavidez to beat Kyle Smith in the head-to-head matchup.
A great fight, isn't it?
And by the way, they all three beat Billy Joe Saunders. Like Billy Joe Saunders is like the redheaded stepchild of the group, who we'll get to later on the show for being an idiot. But Kyle Smith, I probably lean Smith as well because his win over George Groves is clearly the best win of the bunch. Right? Like Benavidez's best win is what? Darrell? Like is that his best win, honestly?
What's the Romanian guy's name that he beat twice? That was supposed to what was his name? Who did he win the belt with? He won a vacant belt against what was the guy's name? A Money Mayweather fighter.
Oh my god, yes. What was that dude's name?
People liked him.
I know people liked him. God, look it up really fast.
But Benavidez is the best name.
Ronald Graville. Thank you.
Graville, yeah.
No, that's bad. That's nobody. I'm sorry. Somebody is very mad that we said that Demetrius Andrade has not beat anyone yet at 160, saying that Demetrius Andrade is calling everyone out at 160. That's awesome. He's been yelling at people to fight him, but none of them are, significantly good, I would say. Silitsky was originally a 154-pounder, moved up and had some fights and didn't beat anyone of note. Cool, you beat him.
That's the best name on his resume, period. 54 or 60.
Vance Monroe's best name on his resume.
All right, put it aside. Vance Monroe versus Silitsky at 157 pounds. Who wins?
Like prime Vance and prime Silitsky? Vance. I'd pick Vance Monroe.
Silitsky's not a bad fighter.
No, he's not. No, he's not. But
I don't know.
He's one of those guys that he can slip in a top 10 for like a month.
Yeah.
Right? Like
exactly.
He can slip in at the number 10 spot here and there in a ranking period, but he's never a perennial top 10 guy in any division. Like that just isn't. No. Andrade needs a win, and yes, he's calling out people, but he still hasn't fought them yet. So you can't rank someone for people they've called out. That's not how this works. You have to fight them. You have to actually beat them. And I think we both said that Andrade's probably the best boxer of the bunch, right? Do you agree with that? Then if taking out Canelo, right, the three guys, Triple G, Charlo, Andrade.
Absolutely. I don't think that's close. Yeah.
Andrade's the better boxer of the bunch by far, but could he actually get the fights and beat them all? I don't know, because his own promoter is saying he can't get him fights, so it's hard. A light heavyweight, I feel like it's one of those similar to Estrada and Ioka, where there's a clear number one that's the safe pick, but you have the contingent of hardcore hipsters that are picking the other guy. And obviously, it's Beterbiev and Bivol, respectively, for that. I'm picking Beterbiev here because that win against Vajic is the clear lineage of the division. Plus, it was dominant performance. And Bivol has looked a little bit lackluster as of late. Not saying he's looked bad. I think some of his guys that he's beaten has looked really good post him beating them. But he still looks like he's a little bit undersized for the division. He's a little bit underpowered for the division per se. But his boxing skill, his fundamentals may make him the best guy in the division. We just haven't seen it yet. Beterbiev has the win, clearly.
But it's Beterbiev. I think Bivol at that size should go down to 168 because I think that's a better fit for him. But he's also the second best fighter at 175, and there's makeable fights for him there. So I don't know, but what Beterbiev did in the Vajic fight makes him number one. To me, that was. I know people can argue Bivol, but come on, that's the wrong argument. It's Beterbiev.
It is. I mean, there's sometimes a win is enough, and that win against the champion at the time, who beat the champion at the time, it just makes sense. And plus that performance was so enlightening. As somebody that was a Beterbiev doubter for such a long time, Callum Johnson kind of roughed him up a bit. By then he knocked out Johnson within 4 or 5 rounds, but he still roughed him up a bit. So I've always been skeptical of Beterbiev because he can get dropped, he can get hurt. But then he had a lights out performance against Vajic, who was the guy in a unification, and demolished him while showing levels to his game we had not previously seen. It's impossible to rank Bivol above Beterbiev at this point in time. Moving on, cruiserweight. This is hopefully a fight we will see when all this is said and done, because I think it is for the World Boxing Super Series final, unless we have some bullshit happen, which is possible. We have the World Boxing Super Series involved, so that automatically means bullshit could be happening. But Briedis, Dorticos, obviously the two guys that are probably the best fighters post Usyk in the cruiserweight division. Briedis is probably the guy I would pick. I think he is the more well-rounded fighter of the bunch. And plus, he gave Usyk his toughest fight. And I kind of rank that highly, in my opinion.
I do too. He was the second best guy. His only loss was to the best guy. And the best guy left. So he becomes the best guy, right? By default. So I say, but Dorticos has the win over Tabiti.
Tabiti's not bad, but he's one.
Who did you pick in that fight? I picked Tabiti.
I might have picked Tabiti.
It's a good win, but again,
because Tabiti is one of those guys that I was cooling off of quite quickly. He wasn't looking that spectacular, and he had that one good flashy knockout. I want to say in the first fight of the tournament, but other than that, everything was kind of in his career. I want to say, and plus, I've seen him train, so I've been around him, and I've never been that impressed by seeing him train. So maybe I did pick Dorticos. I don't remember exactly. But for argument's sake, let's say I did pick Tabiti. Dorticos is really good. He has some good wins. But he got so outclassed against Murat Gassiev.
Well, I mean, in the second half, he was doing okay. He was landing some shots early, and then in the second half, Gassiev turned it on and beat him up, and then stopped him. Right, he stopped him in the 12th round. Didn't go the distance. Yeah, might have been the 11th. I think it was 12th. Mm-hmm. But Dorticos
and that fight saw Gassiev quickly get on his bike and outbox Dorticos. If Gassiev can do that to you, what's Briedis going to do to you? Come on.
And then Gassiev got destroyed and embarrassed by Usyk, right? So, and Briedis, and I still thought Usyk won the fight with Briedis. Why? I didn't have it as close as the judges did. Mm-hmm. But Briedis was in that fight. It was a competitive fight. He definitely won rounds and was competitive, where Gassiev wasn't competitive, not for 1 minute in that fight with Usyk.
No, not at all. I think even Rob scored it for Briedis.
I didn't see that. The rounds were close, but I thought Usyk was winning them.
Yeah, but remember, that was when Rob was a Usyk hater and picking against him in every fight. And then he knocked out Tony Bellew not too long after that.
I picked Dorticos to win that tournament when they first announced it. Right?
Really?
Yeah, I did. I just thought, okay, this guy's got heavyweight power, and no one else in that tournament does. Besides maybe Gassiev, but I'm still not that impressed with Gassiev. He was 22 when that tournament started, or 23. He was so young. I was I'm going to pick Dorticos. I think he'll crack Usyk on the chin, Mm-hmm. And then he got that ridiculous knockout in the first round. I was like, I told y'all. And then
yeah, and then
he got exposed as just a puncher. Yeah,
it happens. It does happen occasionally. Let's go to heavyweight then. Fury or AJ, and that is the only discussion at this point because Deontay Wilder lost and no one else has really come up like an Usyk to make himself credible. Like Usyk had a Dylan White, Chisora in his resume already at heavyweight, then it would be different. But he doesn't.
He's got Chaz Witherspoon.
He's got Chaz Witherspoon, and maybe you give him a Tony Bellew, who I wouldn't give him at heavyweight, but hell, maybe you do give him that. Fury clearly is the guy who has that signature win right now in recent memory against Deontay Wilder in the rematch. He looked so good in that performance. I think it's probably clear that he is the more natural boxer of the two between him and AJ. But AJ kind of on the low has the better resume. Am I wrong in that, Gary? So that's where like this discussion becomes a little bit interesting.
No, AJ's total resume. Like if I just started listing names, okay, the best one is on Fury's resume. The next 6 best are kind of on AJ's resume. So, like I say, AJ beat Klitschko, and Fury beat Klitschko, and then he didn't beat another top 50 heavyweight for 5 more years.
And
That's a long time not to be a top 50, not a top 10 guy, a top 50 guy. Anyone, any relevance at all. It took him 5 years. So, and even before that, his really only wins are over Chisora and Steve Cunningham. Like, no, his resume is not great, but he's got the win. He's got the win.
2 wins.
The 2 wins over Klitschko and Wilder, so he's number 1 on the list. But like, just total resume, no, AJ's is better
because Klitschko Wilder's better than, let's say, Klitschko for AJ and Joseph Parker, Andy Ruiz in a rematch.
Like Takam would be the 3rd best name on Fury's resume. Like it would be.
No, he wouldn't. He'd be 4th.
You would take Chisora over Takam?
He beat Takam. Yeah.
Oh, you're right. He did.
And that was a great.
You're right.
Yes,
you did. You're right.
He's the 4th.
Okay.
You're not totally wrong. You're just 1 spot off.
I'm saying that's not. You know what I'm saying? Like Charles Martin is better than nearly everyone on Fury's resume besides those top couple of guys.
Who do you pick? Prime Steve Cunningham or prime Charles Martin?
Martin's at least a heavyweight. Like Cunningham wasn't a big cruiserweight, right? And I like Cunningham. Shout out to USS Cunningham, but he wasn't a heavyweight. I would take Charles Martin. I don't think Charles Martin is as bad as all you guys do.
No, I don't think he's bad. I just think he's the butt of a joke because it's Charles Martin and he says the craziest fucking shit. And
if he never won a heavyweight title, would he still be a butt of a joke?
No.
That's what I'm saying. It's like
if he didn't have the whole him fighting, what was that guy's name who blew out his knee in the fight?
It was a Russian name. I totally forget.
The G as well. I forget his name, but I remember the last name started with the G. But that was a weird, like all of a sudden, remember, Klitschko's retiring. The division's changing. And you have Charles Martin fight for a vacant belt against some guy we haven't heard of. He wins the belt off of a guy blowing out his knee mid-fight. And then the next fight he has, he gets sent to the UK and gets demolished. And remember, he had like the silly shorts too, and he kind of looked goofy. Like Charles Martin, like he looked bad in that AJ fight. Like that AJ fight was a fucking meme for a round.
Glasscoff was his name. I just pulled it up. Glasscoff.
And it had a G. It had a G. But digressing, I think Fury is the one like you give right now because of what he just did just a couple months ago or 2 months ago now. But Josh was one of those guys because of the strength of his overall resume. He could easily surpass Fury depending what happens in that trilogy fight. Let's say if Wilder beats Fury in the trilogy fight, who do you then place in the number 1 spot in the division? Wilder, AJ, or AJ then Wilder? Like it then becomes that again, right? And then it falls back to, well, then AJ has the better resume than Wilder. He's a better boxer than Wilder. You know, like it's becomes very interesting depending what happens in the next 12 to 18 minutes.
Let me ask you this. What if Ruiz fought Joshua in a trilogy that Eddie Hearn hinted at because he's bored? and Ruiz beat Joshua, would Ruiz go to number 1?
Probably not. Similar to why I wouldn't think Wilder jumps to number 1.
Okay.
Yeah. But it becomes now more of a muddled mess in the division, where right now it seems like it's a clear Fury pick.
Right. I think
change.
Fury's 1, AJ's 2, Wilder's 3. I think that's and then Ortiz is 4. But then you could say Dillian White, because that performance, and I'm an Ortiz fan. That was an awful performance.
Ortiz is not 4.
I mean, Dillian White is 4. I'm sorry, Dillian White is 4. But Ruiz is better than Dillian White. Like, can we be real? Andy Ruiz is better than Dillian White.
Yeah, I'd probably.
Like, if he comes in fat again, he could get caught cold by Dillian White.
Looking at a determined, in shape, relatively speaking, Andy Ruiz, he's in that fight. Yeah, I would probably pick Andy Ruiz to win. I mean, Joseph Parker almost beat Dillian White, and I think
Joseph Parker did beat Andy Ruiz.
I know, but let's be honest here. Since that fight, who has progressed and who has degressed?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
You know, like. That's one of those fights where it's like Estrada Gonzalez in 2012. Like, that's almost a meaningless fight now because they're totally different fighters in 2020 or hell 2021, depending where we get at with this pandemic. So I think Andy Ruiz is one of those guys where I would put him almost over Joseph Parker at this point as well. But digressing. We're going to run down it quickly. Heavyweight. We picked Fury. Cruiserweight, we picked Breedis. Light heavyweight, Better Beef. Super middleweight, Count Smith. Middleweight, Canelo. But if Canelo's not there, Triple G by default. But that could be a discussion. Junior middleweight, you picked Laura. I picked Rosario. And everyone else picked Madrimov in the chat because they're high. Welterweight, everyone picked Spence, it feels like, except for weirdos. Junior welterweight, Taylor was the safe pick, but Ramirez is making a honest debate for that spot. Lightweight, Lomachenko's the king. Super featherweight, Burchell. Featherweight, we picked Russell, but Warrington has the better resume. Super bantamweight, I picked Akhmadiliev. You picked Emmanuel Navarrete. Ray Vargas also in that mix. Bantamweight, we both picked Inoue, but Rigo, I think, could easily beat Inoue. Not easily, but he could beat Inoue and then be the king of the division. Featherweight or super featherweight, we picked Estrada. Flyweight, picked Martinez. Light flyweight, Kenshiro. Minimum weight, Wenhang, Menothin. That is it for our best fighter in each division, guys. Before we get to the news of the day, let's take Santiago's call and have him, give his thoughts on some of this. Guys, if you want to call in, wait till Santiago's done, please, because I'm going to hear your ringtone calling in. But Skype Mixed Combat Radio if you guys want to call in. Santiago, you are unmuted.
Yo, what's up?
What's up, Santi?
Not much. It's ironic considering that I was actually I sent my list to Gary for my all-time best by weight class. I know I differ on 4 with him on that part, so hopefully I can chop it up with him on that one separately, or if you want to jump in on that. But good discussion, good debate. I generally have the same thoughts that you guys did regarding a lot of the weight class, from Julio Cesar Martinez all the way to Tyson Fury. I feel like a lot of this just boils down to whether you're looking at lineage, performance, or resume and seeing just how well each one compares to the other criteria, so to speak, because just Tyson Fury, I have him there based on his performance, even though you can clearly tell that Joshua's resume is a little bit stronger. And likewise, Gary Russell's biggest issue is his inactivity. But I think that his consistency and his longevity as a champion is there to be shown. And I would enjoy seeing a fight with him and Warrington down the line, which I would honestly favor probably Russell, just due to the fact that I think Warrington's style would play into Russell's.
I agree.
Yeah, man. And regarding bantamweight too, for that matter, I haven't now Inoue is the king just because of the impressive run he had in the World Boxing Super Series, doing what he did from that 2-round destruction, 2-punch destruction in the opening bout of the tournament to the war that he had with Nonito Donaire. That really, I have a hard time not putting him as the king just due to the fact that like. Rigondeaux, although he is an exceptional talent, doesn't look great at 118. Only has the one fight at 118. So, do I think Rigondeaux could beat him? I think so. I think the skill sets there are very complementary to each other, where you really have to see Inoue come in, be the aggressor, work the body, get those legs out of there early, and likewise, you just see Rigondeaux using his vast experience and skill set to just keep him, off kilter and off balance so that he never has a chance to set and throw those bombs.
Agreed.
You would pick Rigo to beat Inoue? You would, if that got announced next week, you would pick Rigo to win that fight?
55% Rigo, 45% Inoue. It's not like I'm like 100 in or 100 out. Nah, like it's a close fight. But I would actually be picking Inoue just due to the fact that again at 118, the guy who has the better run right now versus the guy who has one fight at 118.
Yeah, I just
surprised that we see because he doesn't look bad at 118. Rigo not looking like he did in the Donaire fight versus Inoue, especially because Inoue, this is his third weight class.
And he skipped one, right? Yeah. And Rigo would be coming down, so he's naturally the bigger guy. I'm not gonna pick any 40-year-old because he is 40 now, right? Like he's 40. That's really old, especially for a little guy, to beat a prime monster, right? And I'm not saying it's impossible. Like Rigo could do it. He could outbox him and win enough rounds and stay away from his power. He's got the moxie to do it and the power.
Why are you framing this discussion in this way? Donaire walked down Inoue, and Inoue had to be on his bike for most of the fight and outboxed Donaire. You don't think Rigo, who's bigger and has maybe more pop than Inoue? I know that might be sacrilegious, guys, but it's an honest debate. You don't think Rigo's going to walk him down too? This version of Rigo where you've seen against Seha?
And, 40. I don't know. I know Donaire's not a spring chicken either. I get it. Like, he's 36 or 37. Like I get it.
Rigo walked down Seha. He was a 140 pounder. Let's be honest. I mean, I think I don't see Inoue being the monster that walks down everyone at 118. That's not true.
Is Inoue fighting in the wrong weight class? Should he go down to 115?
Yes. Yeah. We've been hinting at that for a while on this show, but yes, I'm more of the mindset that 115 is his true weight class that he skipped for no reason. Didn't really skip. He fought a few times there, but let's be honest, he didn't really contend there. So he needs to go back to down to 115 and fight Estrada, Gonzalez, Ioka, Tanaka. Like those are guys that would be really competitive, fun fights. You might be a little bit outsized in this division, especially guys like Donaire and Rigo who had fought at 130. Like that's what we're talking about. We're talking about him fighting guys that are so much bigger than him naturally that are sucking down to 118 because they can, and that's their right. But that's something that he has to deal with, and he has to now outbox Rigo. In my opinion, I don't think he can outbox Rigo.
No, we can't outbox Rigo. Like Rigo is fantastic. Rigo's skills are second to none. I mean, Rigo's skills are amazing. But he's 40, like a primed power puncher with great boxing skills. Not as good as Rigo's, but a great boxing skill, I think, is going to break down a 40-year-old at some point. Now, look, I'm not saying it's impossible that Rigo could win. Rigo could win, but I can't pick it. Give me one 40-year-old ever who beat the best guy in any of the smaller weight classes from 122 down. Like I can't think of any.
I can't think of any, but hey, it was, it happens.
It does. I'm just not gonna. Again, it's not impossible. It's totally possible. I'm just not gonna pick it.
I don't know. You're talking about a guy that's bigger than him, better boxer, can easily contend from the power perspective with Inoue, and has beaten the guy that's his best win. You know,
That's also Rigondeaux's best win.
JC over here with this bullshit Cuban hate, talking about like Laura and Rigo are safety first. They were that for a long time. Have you watched any of their fights lately, JC? Like, did you watch Laura Castano?
Yeah, Laura's no longer a safety first fighter.
Did you watch Rigo and Ceja? I don't think you did at all.
I thought he was saying we were hating on Cuban fighters. Like, I love Cuban fighters. I don't even know why.
No, he is hating on
Yeah,
Cuban
he's
fighters.
hating on Cuban. Yeah, okay.
And first off, who gives a shit if they're boring styles? Fuck out of here.
That doesn't really matter to me.
You know, I mean,
Pernell Whitaker's like my all-time favorite. Like, it doesn't really matter to me.
You know how many boring fighters are great? I mean, boring athletes are great. Probably most of them, I would say. Anyways, Santi, any other thoughts, man, before we jump off?
Nah, man, that's pretty much it. And the only thing I would probably touch on when it comes to like the recent performances we've had with some of these Cuban guys is probably the reason they can engage even at this late stage of their careers because they're well preserved because of that safety first style, you know. And I think that's something that can't be overlooked, especially with a guy like Rigo. I feel that Rigo, even at 40, is pretty well preserved. He has, in my recollection at least, only one barn burner, if you want to call it that, and that is the Ceja fight.
Yeah. And he got, beat up to a degree in the Loma fight, but that fight was weird. That was one of those, like, he was like mentally checked out really early in that fight. That was odd. Like the comparisons to Duran, Trigger, and Leonard too are very apt for that one. But digressing.
Oh, one last question for Santiago. 54. Who would you pick as the king of 154?
I have Jason Rosario on my list just due to lineage and how far that lineage extends back too, because obviously Lara was the dominant champion at 154. Enter Jared Hurd, who had impressive wins over Tony Harrison, stopped Austin Shroud, and had a hell of a fight against Lara before the Julian Williams fight. Julian Williams had a hell of a performance against Jared Hurd. And then Jason Rosario not only had an impressive performance against Julian Williams, but was a guy that showed marked improvement in his overall game. And that's something that I can't overlook either, because as a counterpuncher, he looks impressive. I would love your thoughts on that point, Matt.
No, I think that's. I want to say I hinted at it earlier, but yes, I mean the idea that Rosario is so vastly improved now from fight to fight. Like, look at the Nathaniel Gallimore fight. I think that was one of his fights, and then check out the fight with J-Rock. It's two completely different fighters. Like, they aren't the same person at all. And young fighters can make that jump. That's completely possible. Since we're going to jump off though and get to other stuff. Mr. DAZN in the chat, who is saying that I'm ducking him, who apparently forgets I used to call into the show all the time, every day. And then I called him out for being biased and having really stupid arguments about Jaime Munguia being the best junior middleweight, remember? And he never called again. So, Mr. DAZN, you can call in Skype Mixed Combat Radio. Skype is free. You can get on your phone. So, I'm not ducking you. Phone lines are open. We have a ton of news to get to, so we're not leaving it anytime soon. Let's get to some more news in the boxing world, though, Gary. Let's get to the Billy Joe Saunders news, because I want to get through all the bad news first and then get to some good stuff. Mr. DAZN saying, what's the number? Dude, I just told you. It's Skype. It's Mixed Combat Radio. It's a free app you can download. Do that. It's not that hard. Digressing. Billy Joe Saunders was suspended is suspended by the British Boxing Board of Control following a video in which he gave mock instructions on domestic violence. His boxing license is suspended pending a hearing until the board's misconduct regulation, under the board's misconduct regulation, date and venue to be confirmed by way of Michael Benson. We are getting this news. The video that they are referring to, or he is referring to, has been deleted. Billy Joe Saunders made an apology post, I want to say. But I have very little thoughts about this, because it is just so blatantly obvious that this is what he did was so incredibly fucked up to make a joke, air quote, video saying this is how you should beat up your wife if they get mouthy with you. Like, that is such scum behavior that I should be shocked, but it's Billy Joe Saunders, so I'm not shocked at all, right? I don't know how this is acceptable, like by us as a community. Like, we really need to draw a line in the sand on domestic violence. Like, we have fighters that obviously have committed to domestic violence fighting in the sport, and that's unacceptable. So let's not make jokes about it as well. Let's have a line in the sand. Domestic violence is not a topic of humor. It's not a topic of comedy. And if you're a boxer and your profession is violence, don't give out comedy videos on how to beat up women. That is so dangerous and stupid. I'm getting sick of these types of stories in a way, Gary. It's really frustrating.
The problem is, like, well, I want to talk about whether or not he should be suspended, like, because I think that's a better conversation than, like, is what he did okay, right? Like,
He should be suspended.
You think so? Because there are guys who actually get Kovalev.
No. That's where that's a false argument. Okay. It's not about, oh, the system lets these guys go, so should he be let go? No, they should all not be let go. I preface this argument with that, or this discussion with that, I should say, that we should draw a line in the sand. We allow Marcus Brown to fight. How many domestic violence cases?
There's another one. Yeah,
his baby moms. Like, 4 or 5 times he's been arrested. Mayweather, obviously Gervonta Davis in a recent case that we've talked about, right? Sergey Kovalev. Like, it happens so frequently. Of course, that should not be allowed. But guess what? Making jokes about it should also not be allowed as well. Making instructional videos on how to beat your wife if they get mouthy should not be allowed in common, decent society. Like, sorry. Like, sorry if you want to be the edgelord of today. Fuck off. You can't yell fire in a movie theater. There is limits to what you can do. There's limits to what you can say.
So, like, the question is it a credible threat, right? If it is a credible threat, then you can suspend him for it, right? Like, dude, I mean, I think there's better ways. Like, have your promoter drop him.
I'll make an argument really easy that this is a credible fucking threat because of so many boxers in this issue.
There's that, right? There's that argument. I get that.
Harold, who's arrested now because he beat up his ex-girlfriend and gave her a bloody nose. Okay, he had to be pinned down by 4 people when the police arrived. Okay, like, he's been in and out of rehab for drinking, drugs, and gambling. This is a huge issue. Violence in this sport against women, violence period in this sport, is an issue when we take it outside the ring. Okay? Like, there's a reason why we have rules. We put it in the ring. We have regulation behind it. Because you can't go out in public and beat up people. That's not allowed.
Actually, Texas is a mutual combat state, so if we agree to fight and there's no serious bodily harm, meaning just cuts and bruises, you can agree to fight each other.
That's so stupid.
There's 2 states. I forget. I think the other one is a state you wouldn't expect. Maybe Washington. I think it's Washington is the other one. But that's not the point. In a peaceful, civilized society, you can't go and beat people up. I agree with you.
Oh.
And there's obviously this is not the correct forum given the recent history and long-term history of beating women in boxing, right? Like, you make your living fighting, and there's a bad history, recent history especially, but going back.
Bring up Carlos Monzon, who killed his fucking wife.
I mean, it's
Evan Valerio, who killed his wife. I mean, like,
I showed the video to my wife, and she kind of snickered out like, what a stupid idiot. She didn't think, like, oh, this is a horrible human being. Like, she got that he was trying to be funny, but it just missed the mark kind of thing. Like, do you think Billy Joe Saunders you said you think he's a credible threat? If he is, then absolutely. Do you really? I mean, I don't know. I mean, Billy Joe Saunders is an idiot. I'm not.
Your job is to punch people
in the face. I get it.
And then you're out there promoting punching women and your spouses. How is that not a credible threat?
As a guy, I'm not allowed to ever justify, right? And but like I said, I showed it to my wife, and my wife didn't think that this guy was actually going to go beat up his wife. You know what I'm saying? Like,
matter.
Yeah.
Guess what, dude? You are a celebrity that commits violence for a living, and you're telling other people to commit violence. How is that? There was.
I get it. Like I get it. You know,
and look, again, I know you aren't saying this anymore, but I know that I would have tons of people, and there are probably people already in the live chat saying this, that what about this person? What about this person? Again, like we need to have a red line at some point. And a lot of these guys should have their licenses revoked. Like that's just the end of the discussion, honestly, is that name anyone that has beaten women outside the ring and they're not also a woman. You should either be A, in prison, or B, you should not be allowed to commit violence for a profession anymore. Like that. Sorry. You know, I assume, I don't know this. I know you're more aware of like Wall Street regulation stuff. I assume if you get caught with insider trading, you aren't really allowed back on Wall Street, so to speak. Right?
No, I mean, unless you're an elected politician, then you're allowed to do it. Apparently.
Oh, and then you're elected, of course. But that's
no. But no, I mean, you might go to jail. You definitely, like, if I did it as a broker, you'd have your license taken away from you. You're not going to be able to do that again, right? Even if you just get a strike on your license, you're probably never going to get hired again, right? And I think that's Billy. I think a better avenue is for his promoter, Eddie Hearn, to say, "No, I'm dropping you. I'm not. You don't represent this company. I've dropped you." Like kind of like the NFL does. Like that's like, you can never play football again. You're just not going to play for us.
I would love that, but there's no mechanisms to enforce that. Right? There's no force to make Eddie Hearn say you can't promote Billy Joe Saunders unless he's not licensed to fight, and therefore you cannot promote him. Right? Like that's where it becomes an issue. So I agree with you, Gary. I just think that you would have to. You'd hope that like a Matchroom or box promoters have some sort of conduct clauses in their contracts. I know the UFC did for a period of time, and then they got rid of it because it became an issue. Like fighters,
it was just too hard. Yeah,
like fighters were saying stupid shit, and they're like, "Fuck, we have to keep finding these guys," and then they just didn't want to do it because it became negative PR. So this has been tried in boxing promotions, or not boxing promotions, combat sports promotions. It has largely been forgotten though, or left aside, because promotions leave the regulation of the sport to commissions or the sanctioning bodies. Like it's not our job. It's not our job to determine. That's the whole Eddie Hearn thing about going to Saudi Arabia and fighting there, right? It's not our job to determine that. We're just here to make money and promote fighting. You know, like that. It's not our job to determine where we cannot and can't fight. That's the regulation side of the sport.
The disturbing thing is what went through Billy Joe's mind that made him think that was a good idea. Like, you know, like what, like, you know. Yeah, I'm going to set up cameras and I'm going to do this, right? Because it didn't just like he wasn't just caught saying it in the middle of the conversation. Like this was something he premeditated and went out and did because he thought it would like.
Yeah. Moving on though, trying to get through all the bullshit news, and want to remind people that Mr. DAZN is still not calling in and still ducking me, even though he's saying that I'm ducking him, and also he's on the chat right now. Interesting. Did he run away? Seems like it.
He doesn't want the smoke.
You remember the last time he called in, right? And he went off about Munguia being the best.
I remember the call, yeah.
So good, man. So good. Tokyo Olympics. Maybe this is good news, depending on your view on it. It's rescheduled for July 23rd through August 8th. Do you think this is going to go off? Think it's going to happen?
Next year? Yeah, I think so.
Oh, it's next year. I'm dyslexic as fuck. Oh, next year. Oh, for sure. Never mind. I thought this, like they wanted to reschedule for this. Like they're trying to do it this summer. I'm like, no, you can't do that.
Sorry. The Olympics, but no fans, right?
Totally okay with that. And then the Winter Olympics would be 2022, or are they pushing that back there as well?
The Winter Olympics are 2022 anyway.
No, but I mean, are they going to push that back to have that year cycle still?
I don't know. Does anyone watch the Winter Olympics? What sport do you watch in the Winter Olympics? The only one that's watchable is speed skating. I can't watch anything else in the Winter Olympics.
My dad loved the Winter Olympics. I don't know why he loves the Winter Olympics. He went to where was the one in Canada in like 2000, something like that. I forget. Like Montreal or some shit, Toronto. anyways, he went to that one and he loved it. He loves the skiing because he's a big skier. He loves skiing. Or at least he used to be before his back and knees started giving out. So there's some people that like it, just like there's some people that like figure skating. Like my great grandma, rest in peace, loved her to death. She used to babysit me all the time. She had a bookshelf that was all VHS tapes that she recorded of figure skating competitions. Okay. So she would babysit me and watch figure skating the whole time. And I fucking hated it. It was the worst thing in existence. God, awful. Someone in the chat saying, what's the phone number? It's Skype. So call in on Skype, Mixed Combat Radio. You can do that.
Can you put it at the bottom? Skype Mixed Combat Radio.
I think I do have a banner for that. Hold on. Da-da-da. My computer's acting super slow, though, I feel like. Call in on Skype. There we go, guys. Boom. That's it. Okay. Anyways, let's get to what else we're going to. Who is this? Is this Mr. DAZN? Let me see. Sure. Sorry, Santiago. Put you on hold. Okay, who is this? Caller. Who
this Mr. DAZN, bro. You over here saying a whole lot of bullshit online, bro. Stop lying on these fighters, bro. That's the first thing you talking about. Lara, who 50 years old, who just got his ass whooped by Jerry Hurd, a fucking hype job. And
Let me mute you because you're very loud and you're annoying. First off, how can you say that I need to stop lying on fighters and the next thing out of your mouth is a lie about a fighter? And Laura, he's not 50 years old. Why are you lying? Why are you lying on these fighters? Now you're unmuted. You were muted the whole time because you were annoying. What I said was...
Answer the fucking question. Who did Jamil Herring lose to, pussy? Answer the fucking question. Who knocked him out? Do you know? But you got him over Oscar Valdez.
Dude,
answer the fucking question.
Dude, first off,
and then you talk all that shit about Eddie
Mr.
Hearn,
DAZN,
but you suck his dick.
What? I question him harder than any other porter at those media scrums. Mr. DAZN, you're muted. Okay, I know you can't. You're talking a lot, so maybe you're talking right now and you can't hear me say that, but you are muted. Okay, we're bringing it back to junior middleweight. Okay, I know you want to say 1,000 things at once and have me respond to all of them at the same time. One at a time here, okay? And if you can't handle this, then dude, you can just leave. Like it's that simple. Okay. So you're still muted, by the way. You can't talk. I'm talking. You said, why am I lying on these fighters? And your next statement was a lie about a fighter. Why are you lying on these fighters? That is my question to you.
Answer the question since you want to suck dick.
No, that's not how it works.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
No.
What's the question?
Dude, you've been muted the whole time.
Herring lose to since you got Jamil Herring over Oscar Valdez.
Herring lost to Shafikov and Ladarius Miller.
Answer the fucking question.
We just said it.
I think I just did. He lost to Shafikov.
Bitch ass. Who think he tough behind the keyboard? Answer the question.
We just said it. Ladarius Miller
and Shafikov.
Ladarius Miller
and those are great fighters.
That's a fucking lie. He got knocked out by a bum. And he wasn't Ladarius
You mean Shafikov? You mean Shafikov? Shafikov isn't a bum. Dude.
Bitch.
Hey, Mr. DAZN, please, we have to have a back and forth here, and you can't yell. Okay, we gotta have back and forth here. You think Dennis Shafikov's a bum?
You a fucking bitch. You said he lost to Ladarius Miller.
He did lose to Ladarius Miller.
He's lost 2 fights. He got knocked out by Shafikov.
Okay, he got knocked out by Shafikov. Shafikov isn't a bum, though. He's been a perennial top 10 guy for years.
In the first place, yo, you have to Google it behind the keyboard, huh?
Dude, you can look. I'm screen sharing. Dude, I am screen sharing. Dude, I'm screen sharing. Dude. I'm gonna mute you and just eject you if you can't have if you cannot have a normal conversation. Can you not have a normal conversation like an adult, or are you stupid? Are you inbred? Are you a Neanderthal? Like, can you have a normal conversation, please? I am. Oh, he hung up, guys.
All right. Why was he so mad?
I don't know, man. But the funny thing is that, like, look, he just did it again. Like, I want to have the discussion. He wants to rant and rave and then hang up.
It was me that said Lara was the best guy at 154. That was me. And no one said Herring was the best guy at 130. We mentioned his name because he's a world title holder in a series of other names.
And he's better at 130 than Oscar Valdez. Like,
yeah,
what?
Is this guys in the chat? Who do you think would win at 130 right now if they fought, 3 months from now? Herring or Valdez? I guarantee you the majority of the people, you'll get some that say Valdez, but the majority is going to, this is not crazy.
The best part is that he calls in calling me a pussy when he hangs up, doesn't want to have a discussion or a debate, and I'm still going to be here talking for another hour.
And then he thought he got me when he said, or he got us when he said, who beat Jamel Herring? I've watched like every Jamel Herring fight that's been on TV. I can tell you who he fought, right? Like he lost to Shatnikov, late stoppage, and he got outpointed by Miller. Like
Shatnikov is so good.
Like at a different weight class. Who's beat him at 130? Nobody. Right. So I mean, okay. If I was not a big Herring fan. Like I liked him. I rooted for him because of his backstory and everything. He seems like a great guy. But I never thought he was that good. I picked Lamont Roach to beat him, but he looks really good his last couple of fights. If you don't think Herring's the best fighter in the world, okay, I'm with you. His skill set's kind of
he's not the best 130-pounder in the world.
His skill set's kind of limited, but he's making the most of it, and he's winning fights with his IQ and his ring generalship and his boxing ability. Like he's overachieving.
Wasn't this dude like on Tevin Farmer's dick when Tevin Farmer had tons of losses early in his career, and then had a run against C-level competition that everyone wanted to hype up? Or Munguia. I mean, this guy called him said Munguia is the next Chavez Senior, bro.
He lost to Dennis Hogan.
And like Mr. DAZN, I'm cool with having a conversation with you, but like you have to have the conversation. You can't just yell and hang up because that's you being A, immature, B, a pussy, and C, a bitch. You get the trifecta right there, my dude. So good luck to you and whatever substances you are on.
Thanks for the call.
Thank you for the call. That was entertaining. I knew that was going to be entertaining, and it was.
Why was he angry, though? Like, I don't think we've said anything out of bounds. We need to come in and trash any DAZN fighter.
I trashed him in the chat because he was saying
you trashed him in the chat, yeah.
He was saying I was going to duck him when I literally, before that, said, call in Mr. DAZN. He said, he's going to duck me. Bitch, you called in and then hung up. Moving on, let's get to some kind of positive news, so to speak, or at least more normal boxing news for once, which is nice, I would say, and mixing up the sort of coronavirus, every fight's canceled discussion. Bob Arum, this is from Michael Benson, but I want to correct it because I think Michael Benson is incorrect with his framing here, saying Bob Arum has stated that he thinks Kell Brook will emerge as the most likely next fight for Terrence Crawford when boxing resumes. Bob Arum did not state this. He's getting this from the Ring Magazine article with Michael Woods, who did interview Bob Arum. But as you can see right here, the quote from Arum reads, this is all it is. I had a nice conversation with Terrence Crawford about his future. He's gotten some exposure on ESPN. They played a couple of his fights. He's raring to go up. So are all of our guys. End quote. Then Michael Woods writes, I'd guess that Kell Brook would come to the fore as next for Bud when the pandemic dust is settled. That is not Bob Arum stating that, Michael Benson, at all. And I feel like that was a little bit irresponsible of him as a guy that's all he does is aggregate news and get it out to the people. That was a little bit irresponsible because that's not what Bob Arum stated at all. He said, we're hoping that Terrence Crawford has a fight soon. That means nothing. And Wood is saying, I guess Kell Brook is going to fight him. But guess what? I've been saying that for a year and a half. Does that mean it's going to happen? No. So the news out there, I've seen a lot of other people write about this and a lot of other articles talking about Terrence Crawford and Kell Brook. Bob Arum did not state that. Michael Woods did. So I still am doubtful that we're going to get even that fight. I'm still thinking we get the bullshit Terrence Crawford fights that we don't like. You know? And not a Kell Brook, who he should have fought a year ago already. Gary, your thoughts on Crawford Brook being stated by Bob Arum, but not really?
So it wasn't stated by Bob Arum. So there's not any. There's nothing to talk about. Look, it's just if you want to talk about the potential fight, we've talked about it for a while.
Yeah.
I'm a big Brook fan. I wish the fight would have happened a year ago. I mean, I still think there's something left in the tank for Brook. I don't think that it's enough to beat Terrence Crawford by any means. So, I mean, it's not the worst fight in the world. It's kind of like the Tank Davis Gamboa fight. Like, it's not the best fight in the world, but it ain't the worst fight in the world either.
Agreed. TJ4 in the chat saying Mr. DAZN wants all the smoke like Andrade. You mean like he yells and then doesn't actually take the smoke? That's what Andrade does. Andrade just yells to whoever's listening. Doesn't actually take any of the fights that we want him to take. Digressing though. Michael Benson again stating that Danny Garcia is the WBC mandatory challenger for Earl Spence when he returns. WBC President Mauricio Suleiman has reaffirmed Spence's IBF mandatory will be the winner of Kudratilo Abakadorov versus Sergey Lipinets, who are going to fight for the IBF interim belt. Nothing real too shocking here other than that Danny Garcia has been made the official mandatory and that Abakadorov Lipinets would be for an interim belt. That's kind of new, even though it was first talked about just being an eliminator. I think this is just lining up all of the things that need to happen for Spence when he comes back. Fighting Danny Garcia and then fighting the winner of Abakadorov Lipinets before he ever fights Terrence Crawford. Gary, thoughts on this?
Does he fight Danny Garcia and then just drop the IBF belt? Because Garcia is a big money fight anyway, which is the fight that they seem like they wanted to make. So take that fight and then drop the belt?
No, because I think Lipinets wins that fight against Abakadorov.
I do too.
Even though Abakadorov had a really good win against Luis Collazo. I just think that Lipinets, Spence, in-house fight. Lipinets is a guy that I think deserves a bone being thrown at him. I think a Spence fight would be that, to be quite honest.
But I just don't like Lipinets is a tough fight for anyone. Hey, look, he's going to win. Spence wins the fight, obviously. Mm-hmm. But it's a tough fight and it's not a big money fight. So why take it? You know what I'm saying? Like,
if I'm Spence, I angle for I want to get paid $4 or $5 million for that fight, but put it on Fox. I would angle for that.
Okay.
And not risk that being a pay-per-view fight, because that can't be a pay-per-view fight in my opinion.
No.
But that as a Fox main event is a fantastic event that could, imagine if the first PBC on Fox event back in whenever we get boxing back is Spence versus, first I would be Spence versus Garcia pay-per-view. But then let's say first card next year for Fox is a Spence Lipinets to start the year off in January. You get some of the NFL playoff hype or push behind it. It just would make a lot of sense. That's what I would do.
I want to ask this question because Danny Garcia is ranked number 1 by the IBF and the WBO. Mm-hmm. If you were Danny Garcia and you could pick, you could fight Spence for the IBF.
Spence.
Okay, you take Spence?
You mean the WBC and WBO, not IBF.
I mean WBC and WBO, right?
You pick Spence for Crawford. Come on. Whatever money they could theoretically throw at you, you could get probably with Spence and on top of that pay-per-view points.
Why couldn't you get pay-per-view points with Bud?
You can, but you're not doing
Spence fight's bigger.
That's that, of course. I mean, you're talking about significantly different draws now from a pay-per-view perspective.
But my thing was you could negotiate a better split with Bud because they don't have any other options.
You could absolutely do that. You could. No, you are right. You could probably negotiate a better split with Crawford.
And stylistically, who do you think he has a better chance to beat? I'm not saying that you pick him against either one. Stylistically, what fight do you think is better for him?
It's hard.
Yeah.
Because you would think Spence, because he's not going to be the guy that's really going to be outboxing Danny Garcia, but he is a really underrated boxer.
He is.
And on top of it, on the inside, I think Spence could get the better of it. I think he's the better puncher than Danny in terms of accuracy and timing. I would argue he has more power than Danny as well, even though maybe it's comparable to a degree. I think Spence has a lot of avenues to win. Crawford, though, is a guy that he's in theory smaller than the rest of them because he came up from a smaller weight class than the rest of them. And he's also been fighting inferior competition. So he hasn't really been practicing, so to speak, with the elite level guys. So maybe he's not on his A game, so to speak, a la the Mean Machine fight with Kavaliauskas, right? Where he didn't look that great. Well, A, because he had a long layoff, and B, he hasn't really been fighting great opponents. So he's not sharpening that iron, so to speak. Maybe I would not pick any to beat Crawford, no, but I mean, pick that fight to be the quote easier fight at this point in time, mainly due to Spence fighting better opposition, probably being better ready for that level of fight than Crawford at this point in time.
And then the other thing is the WBO has Garcia number 1. Virgil Ortiz is number 2. So if Garcia is not going to take that fight, get him out of the rankings, and let's move Virgil Ortiz up to number 1 and mandate that fight. Or have him fight whoever's. Well, Lipinets is ranked number 3 by the WBO, right?
Yes.
So Lipinets wouldn't take that fight either if he's got an eliminator.
Yeah. I mean, Lipinets is thinking IBF the whole way.
Yeah.
Plus, he's one of those guys that he has to rely on the IBF to sort of force a fight.
Right.
He's not draw. But
so, let's get. And do you think Ortiz is at all ready for that fight, or do you think he needs to fight an intermediate guy first? Because he's got wins over Orozco, again a 140 pounder. He's got a win over Herrera.
No,
he's got to fight someone in the middle, right?
Yeah, he's got to fight a top 15 pounder,
like Lipinets, right?
Like Ugas, a Thomas Delorme, even to a degree, even though he's probably not a true 15 pound top 15 guy. Guys of that ilk, Jesse Vargas,
Yeah, Vargas would be a good one, but most of those guys, the Jamal Jameses, the Lipinets, those guys, Andre Berto, I guess, does Berto still fight?
No, he's retired. He
is retired. Okay. Those guys are mostly on the PBC side. So you'd have to go over there.
But you have Jesse Vargas.
Yeah, but Vargas is a good one.
Vargas and Thomas Delorme.
Yeah, both those are good ones. But Delorme is wrapped up with Jamal James for the time being, isn't he?
He is,
in
theory, but that fight is not happening now. And I mean,
well, nothing's happening now.
I mean, God knows in terms of a contract perspective, if he has to go back to that fight first, so to speak, before he can, fight a Virgil Ortiz or something like that. I don't know what happens post COVID-19.
You could just make another Brad Solomon rematch too.
No, we do not.
Golden Boy likes to do that.
They do. They do like to do that. That is true. Mikey Garcia, as you referenced earlier in the show, does not want to fight at 140 again, it seems, and stating it's almost impossible for me to get a title fight at 140 pounds. And this actually became a little bit of a controversial statement in the boxing community. I even had a little bit of back and forth with Lou DiBella about this on social media because he kind of actually echoed Mikey's sentiment that why would he go back to 140? Look, I think the obvious reasoning of you have 2 champions there right now, and one of them is his buddy, so you're not going to fight him, and they're scheduled to sort of semi-fight each other soon. So he doesn't have a champion that's ready to fight him next. Everyone else is sort of busy, and the guys that are busy, one of them is his buddy. However, and I'll also add this before I jump off this. 147 pounds is more money. Like, I get him staying at 147 pounds purely for the money. But Mikey's framing here is about title fights. I don't think Mikey will truly get a title fight unless he is handpicked like a Pacquiao Mikey Garcia fight, right? Where like a champion will kind of give him the bone because he's kind of a draw, he's kind of a name, and they can make some money off of beating him up at this point in time at 147 pounds. The Jesse Vargas fight proved the ceiling on Mikey at 147 pounds. So if we're under the pretext of Mikey wants a belt, then he has to go back to 140. And obviously it's hard because of the reason I say it, Jose Ramirez in that relationship, and you only have Josh Taylor who's in line to fight Jose Ramirez relatively soon. However, those guys are all leaving the division soon. In the next, let's say 12 months, 18 months, Gary, I think it's completely feasible that all of those belts are vacant in a period of time. I think it's completely feasible. And Mikey dropping back down to 140 at that time and collecting belts is what he should do.
But like he can't get a belt at 140, but he also can't get a belt at 147. But there are still fights at 140. Pro Gray would be a hot fight. Would you not be into that?
Yeah, but it's clear that a Jesse Vargas fight is more money, and Jesse Vargas is a guy that's not even a top 10 fighter.
Okay, but he said he wanted
No, you're right. You're
Yeah.
right.
Hooker in Dallas, I think, would do well. Barrios in Texas would do well. I mean, there's fights at 140 if he wants them.
I agree.
So, and he could win those fights. I'm not saying he's going to win all those fights, but he could. He's not going to beat the guys at 40. He's not going to beat Errol Spence. I mean, obviously, he's not going to beat Spence. He's not going to beat. You said you pick him to beat Danny Garcia, right?
No, I don't think I said that.
Okay. I wouldn't pick him to beat Garcia. He's not going to beat Porter, right? He's not going to beat any of those guys at 47. And even the guys that are not below the belt holders, like he's not going to beat Porter or Thurman. So, I mean,
if he wants a title fight, he has to go down to 140 or 135.
I don't know if he can still do that. Like
he can't because he looks massive, dude.
Yeah,
he was looking a little bit thick there in that Jesse Vargas fight.
Like I get it. He went to 147 for the money. So, hopefully you can get the Pacquiao fight. If not, I don't know what you're really going to do and get that Pacquiao money, and then you can retire if you want, because he's not going to win that fight. And I was the one who picked him before the Vargas fight, right? But he's not going to beat.
If he doesn't get the Pacquiao fight, he should get the Crawford fight. Like, if I'm Mikey, that's where I go.
Yeah, that's where you go.
Because you can't get Spence again because he already beat you. If Pacquiao, let's say that doesn't happen for whatever reason, Crawford would want a Mikey fight. Bob Arum would want a Mikey fight. They've even sort of already flirted that idea out there. I guarantee you
it's just such a bad look for Crawford. What if he struggles with them? Then Spence destroyed this guy and you struggle. It's a bad look. It's not I get it. There's not a lot of options for Crawford, but this is a no win for Crawford.
There was a win. I mean, he can blow out Mikey. Right? I mean, there was a win. It's just, I don't think that happens per se. I don't think he blows out Mikey.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I think Mikey is durable enough to make it the full 12, even if he does get dominated, relatively speaking, in that fight, in my opinion. Though, moving on, unless you have any other thoughts about Mikey and what's next for him, because, God, who knows what he's going to do. DAZN, though, speaking of DAZN, shout out to Mr. DAZN, they're the first sporting entity, let's say, network, first media company in the U.S. to withhold their rights fees to their respective leagues they owe money to. For all the leagues that are in contracts they have in place and all those events that are now suspended or canceled, DAZN saying, we're not paying you right now. And at the same time, also going to furlough a lot of their workers and is saying that this is the worst sporting or worst thing to happen to sports in 75 years. So, Gary, thoughts on DAZN having this power move of saying, we're not going to pay you guys. And that includes MLB, big-time football leagues, soccer leagues for our U.S. listeners. And I'm going to assume boxing promotions as well. Though that's not stated, I'm going to assume it. Because why would DAZN give money to Matchroom and Golden Boy, but not the MLB right now?
DAZN's a big company. I'm sure they have a legal team that I don't know. Like, it's a power move because no one else has done it. But I'm sure they didn't just do it on a whim, right? Like, they've invested a lot of money. I'm sure they have a legal team that's researched this and has their outs. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. It's just like,
do you think it's a domino effect? Do you think other networks and media companies start pulling the rights fees to sports leagues that aren't active right now? Is that possible? Like, do we see like an ESPN start pulling their rights fees to stuff or something like that? Like, is that
they could try it. It's a power move, right? Like, I don't think ABC will be the first one to do it because they have so much money. I mean, like, they don't
need to.
Yeah. DAZN, if it goes to court, there's going to be a precedence, and depending on whatever that outcome of that case is, and I don't know, I'm not a lawyer. That's going to be, if you can do this, if I can pull my fee, and then once sports pick up again, I just I'm back in it. Then yeah, that's going to happen, right? Like, I was saying like the same kind of thing. Like, how can you expect people to pay their rent or their mortgage, right? If you're telling them they can't work, how can you expect them to pay these bills? It's not reasonable. So at the same time, how can you expect these guys to keep paying these licensing fees? I understand the contract is agreed upon, but you're not giving me any product, right? So what am I paying you for?
John Ornan, Arand of sportsbusinessdaily.com writes, DAZN is believed to be the first media company with U.S. ties to withhold rights fees. Most media rights contracts mandate that networks continue to make payments even when games are not played. In the past, those payments have occurred during various work stoppages. So I'm assuming like strikes,
whole blackouts. Yeah.
I assume that's when that becomes part of the conversation. Does DAZN not have that language at all in their contracts? I mean, that's insane if they do.
But it's like one of those things where you look at it from your angle, it's a 6. I look at it from my angle, it's a 9. They got something. I promise you. I don't know what it is.
No, I mean, I don't think there's a legal issue here, to be honest. I think there's something to that idea that most media contracts, that like you are mandated to still pay, even if there's stoppages in production flow. DAZN must not have that in their contracts, is what I'm assuming, because that's the only way you could probably do that. And it's possible, because he says just most, that other media companies do have sort of outs in their contracts where they don't have to pay, depending what it is. I wonder if it's an OTT service specific issue, or not issue, but situation where like only streaming services, that's what OTT services are, they have that out, while TV networks don't. I wonder if that's an issue. But digressing, I do wonder what us as DAZN consumers will do. You know, I saw a good listener to the show, good friend of the show, Heath Farley, talking about he's still paying for DAZN to support boxing. And I sent him this link, like, dude, your money is not going to boxing right now, bro. You're muted, by the way, Gary. So as a boxing fan, what should you do? Should you just not give money to DAZN right now because they're not giving money to the fighters you like, and that makes no sense?
No, I mean, look, you have a chance to not pay for DAZN if they're not paying the sports for the sports. I mean, it's a domino effect in that way. Like, why would you pay them if they're, you know what I'm saying? It's like now they're just taking your money and not giving you product.
They are paying for past content, but not any future content, obviously, because that content has not been created.
Right. So, I mean, I paid for the year. I paid the $100 for the year. So they got me by the short and curlies. Right. Like, but if you're paying month by month, no, why would you keep paying? That'd be silly. Like, that'd be silly stuff. Like, no, like, I mean, what if there's no more sports for 6 months? You can have $20 a month for 6 months. That's $120 to get no sports. No, don't pay that.
Yeah. Come on, guys. You can't do that. Come on, Heath.
Leave it in a super chat. If you have that kind of money to spare, that you can spend $120 not to watch sports, super chat it.
Yeah, you can not watch sports here. Great, man. Let's get to this is a semi UFC topic here, but it flirts with boxing, Gary. So that's why I want your take on this. There's now another situation or beef between Dana White and Bob Arum. Dana White is out there saying, because I don't know if you knew this, but Zuffa Boxing was something that they were trying to create. They were supposed to have a press conference last October about this. Guess what? That press conference never happened. And Dana White's on a huge media tour right now, it seems. And basically just shitting on boxing, saying, I don't know if it can be fixed. It's corrupt. The business is all messed up, blah, blah, blah. Also, I'm just trying to run through all these particulars. He also was with Frank Warren on a podcast, Dana White was, and they debated boxing versus UFC and MMA. And he said it's a very fucked up sport, talking about boxing. And it was weird seeing Frank Warren have to defend the sport and big up fights that aren't his, like Joshua fights. It's hilarious. And also in regards to this, Aaron says that Dana White's a monopolist, and that's why he would not survive in boxing. And I saw a lot of the people sort of echo this, that Dana White came in and said, oh, I have to pay fighters more, and I have to, like, you know, give them inside information on deals due to federal regulation that is in MMA. Fuck this. Gary, thoughts on Dana White's criticisms of the sport, it being a mess, it being a fucked up sport, all the classic stuff we've all heard before, and his boxing venture sort of dying before it ever, got out the gates.
I don't understand why he did. I don't understand why UFC and boxing people do too. So it's both sides. Like, why do they keep comparing their sport to the other combat sport, the other major combat sports? Like, the two have nothing to do with each other. I truly don't understand this. Like, I'm a huge basketball fan. I don't sit there and trash on every other sport and say basketball's way better than football. Football's like, I don't like. Okay, you have your lane. I have my lane. There's some crossover, but there ain't a whole lot. So, I mean, you think so?
I mean, the whole regulation side's pretty much the same.
The regulation. I'm saying from the viewer standpoint, from fans' perspective. How many hardcore boxing fans, besides you, how many hardcore boxing fans are also, and vice versa?
No, it's proven to be a smaller segment of the fandom than previously thought, that crossover fan. Absolutely. No, I agree with that sentiment.
So I do this like when people call in and say how much they hate UFC. Like, why does it bother you? Like, what is what they do? Look, if boxing had a big sanctioning body, not a sanctioning body, but a big organization like UFC, we'd get better fights. If we said we would have Spence and Porter by now. Like if all the best fighters joined one organization.
Spence Crawford.
I mean, Spence. What did I say?
Spence Porter, which already
Spence Crawford, which we had. But we would have had Spence Crawford. We would have had Spence Thurman. Those fights would have happened. So there's a million problems with boxing. Do I think Dana White can fix those problems? No, right? But he's welcome to try. I don't have no problem with him trying to enter into the boxing realm. He did good with MMA. Maybe he can make some good fight. I'm not saying he can. I'm just saying I don't care if he does or he doesn't. I welcome him. If he has money, obviously, right?
Mm-hmm.
He wants to try to make fights. Try to make fights. I have no problem with it.
I will say this. First off, the Zuffa myth, if you don't know what that is, it's the myth that Zuffa LLC, the corporation that's owned by the Fertitta brothers, and they allowed Dana White to be the president of the UFC, that they saved MMA, and Dana White specifically saved MMA. That's largely a myth, I would say. Two, the way the businesses are structured are very similar. There are differences in terms of federal regulation, the sanctioning body aspect. Those are particulars in the boxing model that make it different than MMA. But there's enough similarity and crossover to where I understand that discussion by people. I just do. Naturally, I think it makes sense. I think Dana White does not want to deal with working with others. Like that is largely it. B, I'll also say the sanctioning bodies, because the idea of not owning the championship is something I think Dana White and Zuffa / UFC is something that they were not comfortable with. There's a lot of rumors out there that obviously they were trying to buy PBC and have their own belts in boxing. That can't happen. Like, you can maybe get around it from a loophole standpoint from the Ali Act, but it would be hard to do. Also, sort of digressing back to the idea of Dana White not wanting to work with others, Dana White has made it a point to not co-promote ever. I think they've co-promoted a total of like 2 or 3 times in the span of now 30 years. 2 or 3 times. And it was in an era where the UFC was not the number one MMA promotion in the world, where they had to send fighters to another promotion in Japan to get some notice. Like that's when it happened. It hasn't happened since then. So I think Dana White, the UFC, they don't want to work with PBC. They don't want to work with Top Rank. They don't want to work with all these other entities that they have to work with. They want to come in and buy up the sport. And you can't do that in boxing. You can't come up and buy up the sport like you can in MMA. You just can't. The players in boxing have far deeper pockets than the players in MMA. And that was a big deal. Like Strikeforce, Pride at the end was bankrupt because of Yakuza ties. Those were able to be bought out because they did not have deep pockets. Every boxing promoter right now has deep pockets. Every single one. And also, they have streamlined the industry in a way where they're all making a ton of money and they don't need you right now. So I think Dana White sort of cut his losses and didn't want to deal with the headache of trying to burst into an industry that he wouldn't fit into. Very similar to like DAZN in a way. Like being the bull in the china shop can work in some industries. I don't know if it works in boxing. I think the sport gets worse when you have that bull trying to come in and change up the sport in boxing. And it's very hard to do that in boxing. And maybe that's a little bit too. The one thing that I think Dana White is semi-correct about is that the sport is fractured and messed up. Absolutely it is. There's no debate that boxing is a streamlined industry. The promoters have streamlined it from a monetary perspective. That's a very different concept than a streamlined industry to give consumers consistent product. Boxing is not built for that. It's built to give the most amount of money possible to the top guys over and over again. That's what it's built on. But also on this idea of Arum versus Dana White in terms of coronavirus, obviously UFC 249 is maybe not happening. Khabib Nurmagomedov just posted today that he is not going to the event. Obviously, Russia just closed its borders, so he's not able to get out of the country. Dana White is trying to have the event go on and have consumers pay $60 for it and have Tony Ferguson fight some other guy that's in the top 10. And Arum is out there being very adamant, and it's weird that I'm agreeing with Bob Arum, and he's like this bastion of reasoning that Dana White is making a fool of himself by insisting on holding UFC 249 and that this is very dangerous and that this is a risk to his fighters. And again, the fact that Bob Arum is being the voice of reason here is very concerning. So, Gary, quick thoughts on the Dana White Arum beef, and also thoughts on UFC 249 happening. I know you don't really care per se, but in terms of, because I've seen other boxing heads point this out, that if Dana White comes out here and is able to put on an event somehow, some makeshift event, and make money off of it, that boxing promoters would then start making events again.
I just want to check Bob Arum right there, because when everything was canceling, he was going to let Shakur Stevenson and Mick Conlan both fight. And then New York State said, no, this is off. So there's a bit of hypocrisy there in Bob Arum, just to put that out there. Look, I don't.
To be fair, though, he did then cancel like every other card for the next 3 months.
He did.
And then hide out in his house and take edible gummies for the next few weeks.
There's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with it. Or something right.
So I just want to point that out. He had the Shakur Stevenson press conference.
Mm-hmm.
And then New York State said no gatherings of over 50 people. It's canceled. So it's like, we can deal with no fans. And they're like, well, I don't know if that's the best idea. Because I don't think initially people thought things were going to be pushed back this long. He thought maybe it'd be 30 days, maybe 60. It's not a big deal. I'll just push it back. I look, the UFC 249 being canceled, it is for the best. It's the common sense thing to do. Were they considering to do it with no fans, or were they just going to have it?
Yeah, the things we've heard, it was originally UAE or Saudi Arabia was on the line, but they sort of closed down a lot of their traveling and immigration as well, so that's not on the table anymore. Florida was on the table for a bit, then that kind of got off the table. Native American reservations are kind of still on the table slightly because of just them being a regulatory black hole, so to speak, right? State commission, for those that don't know, have no jurisdiction over tribal reservations. So therefore, a lot of combat sports get around a lot of shit by having events in reservations.
You can have it as a reservation, but the state can say, if you fly into our state, you need to quarantine for 14 days. And then you know what I'm saying? Like you know what I'm saying? Like this,
there are other things that become an issue in terms of traveling. And also, I mean, all these gyms are closed. Like none of these gyms are open right now. Like all my boxing gyms are closed right now. I can't go into a boxing gym and get some sparring in. It's not happening. Everything's closed. This event needs to be canceled, and Dana White needs to get his head out of his ass and stop complaining about wimpy reporters, because we're just doing our job and you're not. You're endangering the lives of all of your workers right now by trying to have all these people from all these different areas try to get into one place for an event. It's not happening, bro. It's not happening. Like when boxing is more ahead of the curve in terms of just like common sense regulation, for lack of a better term, than MMA, come on, man. When Bob Arum is in the right and you're not, something's wrong.
It's just a great opportunity for these niche sports to really grow because it's literally the only game in town. Like, I'll if UFC was on Fox, I wouldn't pay for it. But if there was a UFC card on Fox, I don't watch UFC ever. I'd watch it because it's sports.
But
I really would.
Here's the thing, though. We thought that, but then obviously all the boxing numbers came in for that one weekend. Even the UFC numbers came in that one weekend, right? Where they had the last events that were put on. You had the Showbox card and then the UFC card on ESPN. They both didn't do bad. They both underperformed a lot. And also, not a one-to-one analog here, but like podcast numbers are down massively.
Which is weird, yeah.
I thought they would be up. They're down 20%. And a 60% drop in CarPlay usage. That's a massive drop in a product that I thought would actually get a boost.
The card play usage makes sense because no one drives any work anymore. Like I drove Friday just driving Friday at 4 o'clock. There's literally nobody on the road.
I've done that a couple times already.
Yeah,
just getting out and driving around the block a few times. So sad. But yeah, I wonder even if that's true, Gary, that if the UFC put on an event right now, would it do great numbers? Especially now without Khabib, right? Like imagine Tony Ferguson against like a Justin Gaethje, a guy you probably don't know, right?
I know who that is, but I'd watch it. I would.
For $60?
No, for free on Fox. Well, they're not on Fox. ESPN, right?
It's gonna be pay-per-view.
I'm not paying $60 for it. But if it was on ESPN, I'd watch it.
And imagine that, like the UFC saying, "Hey, we know that all you guys can't pay rent right now or your mortgages, but like, here, pay this $60 pay-per-view for a fight that you guys didn't want." Come on, man. Use some common sense here. Last topic of the day, and then we're going to head out of here, guys. Tiger fucking King, murder, mayhem, and madness. Guys, yes, let's talk about it. This is perhaps, like I said at the very top of the show, the magnum opus of human civilization. Okay. I don't know what is better than this that we have created as a species. Okay. This is... Look, there's so much we can talk about here. I mean, Carol killing her husband allegedly.
Okay, that's what I want to talk about. Everyone seems to think that Carol fed her husband to the tiger. Do you think that's what happened?
Look, all I'm going to say is, fast forward a couple episodes, right? When they talk about Joe Exotic, or he talks about like getting attacked by the tiger in his cage, right? Or the lion or whatever, and he thought somebody put cologne on his shoes. Carol was quick to the draw with, no, you need sardine oil. How does she know that? Just saying. I don't know if she put sardine oil all over her husband and then put him out into a cage and to get eaten. I don't know. I don't know if he's under the septic tank. I don't know. But what I do know is that woman is creepy as hell. And that organization is just as greedy all the other fucking organizations. Okay. They charge so much at all those sites. I can't believe the grift that is. Why would somebody pay $600 to go pet a tiger? Would you do that?
I never, no. And I like tigers too, right? Like, but I mean, what I really don't understand off topic a little bit is like people who go to safaris and they'll pay like a life, savings to go shoot a kangaroo. I mean, not to shoot it, but to shoot a giraffe. It's like, why do you? Again, I'm not against it. I just don't understand. Like,
you know me, I hunt, right?
Yeah, I don't understand. Like, I want to go to
trophy hunting is the stupidest fucking
Africa and shoot a giraffe. Why? Was it barking? I mean, you're not going to eat a giraffe. I don't think. Whatever. And I understand that in Africa, like some of the animals they need to get rid of because they could eat the sheep and stuff. I just like can't. I don't understand why you just want to go and shoot a giraffe or a zebra. Like, all right.
No,
I don't understand.
I agree with that completely. No, I agree with that 100%. I think even like some predator shooting is a little bit stupid. Like people going out and shooting bears is the stupidest fucking thing in the world. Why? Because bears most likely aren't going to harm you. Their population's low. And also the meat tastes like shit. So how do you shoot a bear? Oh, I'm frozen up right now, Gary. Am I frozen up on your screen? You muted.
Yeah, you are frozen. I was watching the channel. I don't know how long you've been like that. So Matt's gone. How long was Matt frozen? Put that in the chat. Have you guys watched the Tiger Show? It's pretty good. I didn't really get it, and then just like everyone else, I got addicted to it. I finally watched the last episode last night. I watched it over 2 or 3 nights. I don't know. It's kind of like
it's the best thing ever.
The Redneck Zoo version of Jersey Shore. It's like
It's Oklahoma, isn't it? The best part is, guys, for all of you like longtime listeners, the second I said, Gary, you gotta watch this. You're gonna have so much ammo against Oklahomans after this, or Oklahomians, or whatever they're called. What are they called?
We just call them Okies.
Okies. That makes complete sense why you call them Okies. You have so much ammo against that state now. And am I right, Gary? Like, you can now make fun of Oklahoma forever based off of this documentary.
We knew those people existed anyway, right? Like,
do you remember Joe Exotic from the Libertarian election? I remember him vaguely when they brought up the John Oliver clip.
I didn't know. I know the name that the Joe Exotic, because other people had mentioned. I didn't know like who he was really. I didn't know any of this. I didn't know he was a lunatic. Well, I knew he was a lunatic. I just didn't know it was to that degree. I knew he was a weirdo.
He had 200 tigers.
Yeah, I didn't know anything like.
He gave his workers expired meat.
The best pizza I've had.
He gave his consumers, the people that were coming in there, expired meat on that fucking pizza. Oh my god! And then you have like guys like Jeff Lowe, who's wearing like Affliction tap out gear from 2005, and looking like a reject biker who's doing like cocaine and blow and ecstasy with strippers and hookers in Vegas. Like, it is a wild. And then the craziest one though, I got Gary. Please tell me that you agree with me here. That Doc Antle guy who had the harem of women. That guy's the scariest guy of them all. He's more scary than the guy in Miami who chopped up a person and burned him alive, or burned him after he chopped him up. I forget what the order of events were there. The Doc guy is scarier. That guy was sociopathic. The other guy was just a murderer, but the other guy was sociopathic. It was the craziest thing ever, man. I am so glad I watched this because, like you, Gary, I didn't want to watch this at first. I thought it was kind of just the fad thing at the time. I thought it was going to blow over, but then I saw like everyone talking about it. So I thought I put on the first episode and I'm hooked. It was the greatest thing.
See, I didn't get hooked. We watched the first episode. The first episode kind of just lays everything out. It kind of like sets the plate. I wasn't really into it. My wife was really into it. So then we watched it was 6 episodes, right?
7. I think
okay. 7. So then we watched the first episode, that's it. I'm like, I'm not really into it. My wife's like, we got to watch it. And then the next day we watched like, I guess 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then like the next day I watched the final 2 episodes.
Oh my grandma called me and saying that she's all bored, right? So I was like, Grandma, put on Netflix right now. And I walked her through, put it on Netflix because, she's my grandma. Watch this documentary. She's like, Tiger King, what is this? I'm like, it's about tigers, Grandma. You're going to love it. She's like, oh, it's about tigers.
My daughter's 5. She asked if it's like the Lion King. I said, it is not like the Lion.
Not at all. My grandma called me 7 hours later. She had binged the entire show. And she was like, what did you make me watch? It was so good. It was the best thing ever. And again, I think if you have not seen this yet, I don't want to spoil it too much, but it is wild. And like there's some like genuine human heartbreak in the story too. Like there's suicide in it, and it's super tragic. Even like the guys with the guy with no legs, who was honestly the most normal guy in the entire show, and he had no legs. Like him like leaving his wife and like living in a trailer. Like there's some sad stuff that happened in the story. Honestly, the long hair guy that was clearly drunk as hell in that motel room as they're interviewing him. Thought that was kind of in poor taste. But digressing, it was just such a good documentary because it was crazy, bullshit, hilarity, and it had like genuine human moments in it. It is perfect. Please, everyone go watch this. Don't watch boxing. Watch Tiger King.
Do you want Trump to pardon Joe Exotic?
Oh my God. Is that actually a thing going on right now? Or did you if there's a petition right now, I'm not signing it, but I would think about signing it for sure. No, the dude is fucking crazy. And he legit put out a contract killing on that person. Let's be honest.
Yeah, but I don't think Carol fed her husband to the tiger. I really don't.
I think she's just weird.
Yeah, I don't like.
What do you think happened to the husband then?
I think he said
he got off to Costa Rica.
That broad is crazy and just left.
It's possible. And as someone that has had family members disappear in Costa Rica, like it can happen, man. Costa Rica is one of those countries that a lot of people go to disappear for some reason.
McAfee did. No, that was Belize. Never mind. McAfee this
Close enough. Close enough.
to Belize.
Close enough. Gary, that's it for today's show, man. Any other thoughts? We've been on for a while.
Angelo Rotelli.
We brought him up. Yeah, rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace. That's it. It's a 2.5 hour show today.
Yeah.
Gives you something to do. I ate 2.5 hours out of my day.
That's why I stayed on and did every topic, because what else are we going to do?
Let us know if there's any topics you want us to discuss, or is there anything you want us to talk about, and let Matt know, because I'm down to do a show. This is really starting to crack me. I really starting to feel like I'm on solitary confinement. Like, it's a good show. Like, I enjoyed it. Hope you guys liked it. Follow me on all forms of social media. 3D Boxing blog, from Texas to the world. Thank you, and God bless.
I'm going to do a morning show tomorrow. Okay, if you want to jump on, it's a little bit a Q&A show. Because we did have some questions in our community posts about stuff, and I just thought we didn't have time to get into it on today's show because we actually had a lot of news to get to as well. So tomorrow morning, probably like 10 a.m. my time, I'm going to do a show. Okay. So I'll keep you posted, Gary. And the listeners, I'll keep you guys posted as well. I've seen a lot of MMA questions as well. I'll get to those. And we do a little bit of a Q&A in the morning with you guys. Find me, Matt Hunter, MCR, on all social media platforms. Hit the like button, share the show, subscribe, all that fun YouTube stuff. Listen on podcast form. Drop that 5-star review. Have a great day, evening, night, wherever you are. Peace.